All right, everybody. Hello and welcome to Monday afternoon session of the JCPS Digital Learning Channel. I am Matt Bolka, one of the high school zone digital innovation leaders, and we're going to look at our schedule really quickly before we get started today. So let's go ahead and take a look at that. You can see we are starting off with our gifted and talented team, Leadership Resources for NTI 2.0 with Lindsay and Tiffany. That'll be followed by a bunch of our awesome youth service coordinators. They'll be doing like a welcome to the world of YSC, and that'll be a Monday talk that they'll do, I believe, on the first and fourth Mondays of every month. And then we are going to end today with an hour-long training of Mastery Connect with, I believe, Stephen Watts is our trainer's name today. So let's go ahead and get started. Lindsay, Tiffany, welcome. I hope you're doing well.
Thank you.
So the floor is all, or the metaphorical floor is all yours whenever you are ready to go.
Okay.
Do you want to introduce yourself before you share your screen?
Sure. All right, I'm Tiffany Morrison. I am one of the GT teachers for the district, and I travel to 4 schools, and I am excited to be here today.
And I am Lindsay Dodderwike. I share the same position as Tiffany as a gifted itinerant teacher working at 4 elementary schools across the district. And we are here to present leadership gifted services during NTI setting.
Awesome. We can see your screen. If you're going to do a presentation, captions, you're the best, Tiffany. If you don't mind to just hit that hide button on that white box, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
Sweet.
All right. So we are presenting today on gifted and talented leadership resources, specifically for NTI 2.0, because we know that a lot of schools are trying to figure out in this setting, how do we service our gifted students? So a couple of things you need to remember is that with all GT areas of giftedness, you have to have 2 service options. And leadership is no different. And those services should give students opportunities to practice and develop their leadership skills. So you have to think of it as I'm setting them up with this opportunity that they can just run with.
So one way to service is with just direct lessons on leadership skills, and that could be a multitude of lessons, and you definitely want to make sure, excuse me, that you are targeting it to what your particular students need in the area of leadership. That might be with public speaking, it might be about calculated risks, empathetic listening, having a vision for their leadership. They could be oral or written communication skills, but we just want to make sure that when you are counting these as services, that they are geared specifically towards developing their leadership skills and not just oral or written communication in general. I know we have a multitude of schools participating in the Leader in Me program, and so if you are one of those schools, teaching the 7 habits and how they can use those to develop into leaders is another way to service those students. And on this slide is pictures of some different resources that your school is able to purchase that does have ready-made direct instruction lessons related to different leadership skills, and then also they all include studies where they study famous leaders and take those skills that they learn from those famous leaders and apply
them. Okay, so another way to serve your leadership students is by giving them just leadership opportunities. So in the school setting, we know that you would have them doing things like being a tour guide, being on the announcement staff, safety patrol, STLP, student council, peer mediation, beta club, all those things. And some of those things are a little bit more difficult to do during NTI, obviously. So some things that you could still do is you could still have a new student orientation team, a backpack team. The kids could meet and you could meet with them and, facilitate these small group meetings. A backpack team could help you come up with ideas for projects for the year. The newsletter writers and editors, you could have a blog. Um, I've used Blogger with one of my schools before, and we used that with the fifth graders to create a blog of their writing. You could do student government, student lighthouse teams. Again, we know that a lot of schools are using Leader and Me, and those are meetings that you could still have with your identified fourth and fifth grade students virtually.
This one is one that we encourage a lot more when we're in person, but I did want to share 2 leadership conferences or competitions that may still happen. So for sure, the Kentucky Youth Assembly is going virtual this year. If you click on the link there, it takes you to all that information. But essentially, it's a 2-day opportunity where students serve as like a model state government and make decisions and things like that. And so they have made it accessible virtually so that students can participate safely this year. So that is an option you can share with your students and their families. And then another one is, I know many schools out there are still planning to do STLP virtually. And so having those leadership gifted kids, urging them to be a part of that can count as a service. And just ways, like in STLP isn't just for gifted leadership kids, but it can provide a service for them, especially if you are urging them to kind of take the lead on what you all are developing at the school.
Yeah, and Lindsay, we have 98 schools that signed up for STLP this year. So that's awesome. Yep.
That's awesome. Okay, so another, or is this one you? I think it's you.
It's me, but so the most common way that we see schools providing services for leadership, especially in NTI, is just through an enrichment service, which essentially is where students might meet in small groups with other staff, with a staff member, and that could be their teacher, it could be a counselor, it could be someone, a mentor that's coming in, but it goes beyond the regular kind of curriculum or classroom setting, and it's usually an added feature. So a lot of times when students are going to RTI groups or WIN groups, the leadership gifted kids could go to a leadership group, and it doesn't have to be every day. Maybe they're going once a week or even every other week instead of going to their RTI group or their WIN group that week. And so some examples of things you can do in that time are service learning projects, and we're going to dive deeper into each of these, but seminars, project-based learning opportunities, different independent studies, Read to Lead, which is a website I'm going to show you all. They can participate in mentorships, leadership studies, and then also choice.
And we're going to go a little bit more into detail about a lot of these. So one enrichment could be service learning projects. This could be independent small group created to benefit the community. So we really encourage getting community partners involved and things like that. For example, some of the ones that we know that schools use are like the We Schools. And We Schools is basically creating a project, and they have different grade level project suggestions in case you need one for your grade level for your school. Lead for Change is more of a middle high school program, but it's pretty much similar to We Schools. It allows you to do community service on a larger scale. PBL is designed for this purpose, so you can have students, you can create PBLs related to leadership opportunities. Last year, I had a leadership group that they really felt like they wanted to do something with like younger kids and books, so they got involved in that program where you can take books and put them in little Ziploc baggies and hide them around your school, your community. And then we had like a little thing where if you a hashtag that if you found the book, you could kind of put it out there that you found one of their books. But and that was something that they created and wanted to do, so that was kind of cool.
So to dive a little deeper into how to use project-based learning with leadership, when you're using it with leadership, it's still the basic components of a good PBL in general. So the answer-driving question, it allows for collaboration between students. It can be used for a deep dive into content. And with leadership PBLs, you can still incorporate those grade level core content area standards, or you can do this completely just leadership one. And then they can be designed to focus, like create a leadership group that works on one, or you can almost assign different parts. Like if you have a creatively gifted kid or a visual performing arts, and along with your leadership, then you can assign different jobs or parts based on their gifts and talents. And so I actually was on PBL Works and was going to pull out some of the ones that I thought were really good for leadership. And the more I dove into them, honestly, almost all of the ones on PBL Works are community service or service project related. And so I couldn't even like pick which ones were best for leadership, because almost all of them have a real world aspect where they are taking leadership roles to make the community or their school better. And so the only thing I would say is that you can either incorporate that in. I know a lot of them are math or ELA or science or social studies specific. And you could take some of that part out if you wanted it to be more geared towards just that leadership component, or you could intertwine the two so that you are covering your core content at the same time as you're servicing your leadership as well.
Okay, so another opportunity for students that have leadership as their area of giftedness would be leader studies. And really it's exactly what the title is. It's them doing some kind of research on leaders and looking at their abilities, their skills, their mindsets. They can serve as leadership role models. You could even take that and put it into application and have them make generalizations about leadership. They could practice those leadership skills and mindsets associated with those leaders that they're studying. This could be like one person in general. They could study like just famous scientists. Like there's lots of ways that you could take a leader study. At one point we took and did a study on leaders that have failed and then later succeeded, and just showed them that even a leader can have setbacks and how they kind of overcome that. So there's many ways you could take that, but this is a great tool for students to see those skills that leaders have. Another way you could serve your students is by independent study. Since it's independent, you as a teacher are just guiding them. You're more of a, hey, Ms. Morrison, can I meet with you today to get feedback on this? So you're more giving them feedback, guiding them through the process while they are doing a lot of the research and figuring out how they want to present it. There's many things they could do. They could do a service learning project this way. They could do a leader study this way, a PBL this way. So you can take those services that you're providing and give them more independence, more leadership in that way by having them do it more on their own. And then there's an independent study template here, and Wonderopolis has a lot of ideas that you could check out.
So Read to Lead is a kind of digital web-based program. It is geared towards 5th through 9th graders. I'm sure you could stretch it a grade level down or up as needed. But essentially what it is it's digital gameplay where students are in a virtual world where they are working in a workplace and they're having to make decisions as a leader in their workplace, as well as just balancing their career demands. I think there are 3 different workplaces for them to choose from. And every one of them has a kind of kickoff lesson, a mini lesson for the teacher that is printable and you can run with. Then there's the digital play, and so it intertwines leadership skills of like problem solving and decision making, while also incorporating Common Core ELA standards. And so they basically are the boss of their virtual workplace and make decisions. And then once they complete their, like, I think 40-ish in each workplace kind of games that they go through, but after each one, there's discussion questions for them to reflect on their workday and then kind of reinforce the decision-making skills and kind of debrief, I guess, what they think goes well and not so well, and so that they can really develop those problem-solving and decision-making skills. And then each of the digital workplaces has a student-led project that can be applied to the community. So kind of like a service learning community project, but it is free to sign up for. So you all should definitely check it out. And a lot of kids love it because of the whole gameplay, kind of like a video game type situation.
Okay, so another service is mentorships. This one, you again would be getting community partners involved. You can find people that have specific skills that students may have interest in. You can work with your FRC to reach out to people in the community to act as those mentors for those people. You could use people within your school that have those skills, like in art, music, things like that. But it would be really cool to get those community partners involved. So like business leaders, government officials, politicians, coaches, public speakers. You can see what interests your leaders have and then look for those people. Because mentorships, again, are kind of like the leader studies. They get to see those skills that good leaders use every day to be a better leader. So they get to see that firsthand with those mentorships.
And this one is really, I think, easier to almost do during NTI than not, because a lot of times scheduling and things like that are tricky to get them to be able to come in and mentor your student. But because everyone is digital right now, pairing them up and setting up like a Zoom or a Google Meet with them is almost easier because availability is a lot easier to deal with. So this is one that we recommend, especially pursuing during NTI. And when you're choosing your mentorships, just think about your students' strengths and areas for growth, as well as their interests, so that they're really getting mentored in their areas that they're interested in.
And this will really tie in well with when I talk about Skype in the classroom, because you could find mentorships that way too, through Skype for the classroom, and just you reaching out on Twitter. We 2 years ago we reached out to the creator of Deck Toys, and he talked to us and let us interview him, like the whole 5th grade, from Singapore. So that was pretty cool. And the kids that were really into like tech and being able to use tech to like create things, they were really into that, because that's what he was talking about, how he innovates and how he finds new things to use on his Deck Toys, new like games and new things like that. So that was pretty cool.
And of course, choice boards can be used for leadership as well. You can design choice boards that are essentially just leadership tasks. I know a couple of years ago, I was working at a school that was Leader in Me, and so we did like 7 Habits choice boards, so you can do things like that. I did want to point out that on our gifted choice board that we created for NTI 1.0, every single one of the weeks has a leadership task. It is always located in this spot on the choice board, no matter if it's the K through 3 all the way through 9 through 12. And it has a variety of things. There's quite a few leadership studies, as well as kind of some mini service learning projects and things like that. So if you are looking for some just ready-made leadership tasks to do with your students, check out our choice boards. They are linked here from NTI 1.0.
Now, one of the last things we're going to talk about is Skype for the Classroom. Now, Skype for the Classroom is there is an actual website that can kind of connect you to virtual field trips, live interactions with experts, connection with people across the world. And it's free for anybody to use. You can use it for service projects, mystery Skype. Like I said, in the classroom when I was a 5th grade teacher, we used mystery Skype. The year before last, we went to like over 30 different states. And we talked to the creator Deck Toys from Singapore, so the kids would get to practice their interviewing skills. They would ask the other classes questions that would inevitably lead to us just figuring out what state it was. They would then like share facts about our state, and they would have to like introduce our class to each other. So they get that practice with interviewing skills and just talking in front of a larger audience. There's leadership study opportunities, live sessions with experts in lots of different fields. I know that there was one on the Skype for the Classroom where the kids got to talk to John Goodall. And then there's virtual field trips that you could use and plug into your independent studies, your PBLs for kids to go in and research and look for things that they are trying to find out more about. Now, as far as the services, that's all of the services that we're presenting on today. We do, on this slide, have a couple of resources that are pretty important. So our Google Drive is here, where we have lots of different identification tools and resources for servicing students. We also have the website, our Gifted and Talented website linked here, which also has a wealth of resources for teachers and counselors and schools to use. So those are there for you. We both are on Twitter. We would love for you to follow us. We like to spotlight students. We like to put things on there that we're working on. And it's just a way you can message us if you have questions, you need something. We are always here to help in the area of giftedness. So I don't know if we had any questions ever in the chat box, but
no, I didn't see any in the chat box.
Okay.
Oh, sorry.
But that's all we have. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you both for being here with us today. Great session. And for those of you watching now or watching later, remember, and I will show you where to find this on our schedule. These videos will be broken up later and put on the Digital Learning channel as like separate entities. And we will have their presentation linked on the virtual learning schedule as well, which can be found at jcps.me/NTI. So, Tiffany, Lindsay, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good Monday.
All right, you too.
Bye.
Bye.
All right, everybody, it is 10:54. Let's go ahead and go through some kind of like housekeeping things as we wait for our next session to begin at 1 o'clock. So, remember, you can go to jcps.me/NTI, and from here, go to the Teacher Toolkit. And on the Teacher Toolkit, we have the virtual learning schedule, which I just mentioned. And on there, you can see that we have the link to Lindsay and Tiffany's presentation that they just gave for G&T Leadership Services. We also have the rest of our schedule for today. So coming up in just a second, we have our Monday talk with our youth service coordinators. And then after that, we're going to have some Mastery Connect training to round out our afternoon. This morning, Hey, Anita, do you mind do mute for just a second? We have some feedback coming through your mic. I'm sorry. You're okay. So coming up in just a second, we have our Monday talk with our youth service coordinators. And then after that, we're going to have some Mastery Connect training to round out our afternoon. We still have a lot of noise coming through, Anita. Sorry. Okay, that's better. Thank you. So, where were we here? Oh, yeah. Other resources on the jcps.me/NTI Teacher Toolkit page. We have on-demand episodes for our curriculum frameworks, Teacher Backpack, National Quality for Online Teaching Standards. We have links here to Mastery Connect training, Gale, Literacy Footprints, Admentum, Savvis Realize. We have Google Classroom videos, Screencastify, Jamboard Read Write, Microsoft Teams, and Google Meets. So we've got tip sheets and resource lists for those as well as all of our departmental resources. So the ARE tool, we have the deeper learning resources, some ELL resources, Gifted and Talented, and so on. Like I was saying before, all of our episodes are broken up. So this morning we had some awesome sessions with the deeper learning team and with Carrie from Brown School about daily learning paths for kindergarten. And so those will be broken up, and you can find them here, JCPS Digital Learning, under the Teacher NTI 2.0 playlist. So those were just finished this morning, so I imagine that we'll be getting those broken up and put on there probably sometime tomorrow morning or tomorrow afternoon. That way you all can go back and look at that with the power of pause and watch them at your own pace. Also, you can follow us on Twitter at JCPSDigIn. So we would love to retweet you and like you and show off all the awesome things you're doing with your students. Today, we tweeted out one of the things we give our SDILs, our school digital innovation leaders, and this is the things to monitor. We update this every week, and we also do keep a record of that going, so just because we have the 28th doesn't mean you can no longer see the 21st. It's just like a slide deck there. So we provide someone to follow from a different zone, so this week's person to follow is Ainsley Jones. We provide some different tool updates, so we have some new backpack support stuff on there, as well as our Google Meet tip sheet and our read and write one-pager. And then we also have a featured video. So this week's video was Savvis training for teachers with the Savvis team. We also, if you click on this little sticky note up here, it takes you to the District Digital Innovation Leaders by Zone. So I do believe that Kathleen Receiver, who is the first person to tweet this out, if you go to bit.ly/things to monitor, and I will put that in the chat for you right now, bit.ly/things to monitor, you can go there and see that information. We also have some awesome people in the chat. We have Stephen Durham and Rebecca Reynolds, who are Zone 3 and Zone 1 digital innovation leaders, respectively, and they are there to help answer any questions you may have in the chat. I know we also have some of our awesome youth service coordinator people that will be in the chat as well to answer your questions through this upcoming session as well. So if you follow us on Twitter, please, whenever you tweet the awesome things out that you do, use the hashtag JCPSDigIn, so we can easily find the great things you're doing, and we can easily tweet and retweet that to get you some more love on Twitter, but also to spread your brilliance around the district, because we know what's good for your students is most likely going to be good for my students, and it's great to have that shared brilliance around our district and around our state. So let me move a couple tabs over here, because I know I'm going to need this video at some point during this session. So it is 12:59. Youth service coordinators, welcome. How are you all doing today?
Hello, doing well.
Hi,
Hello.
It's good to see all of you.
Good to see you.
So it's 12:59. We have like a 30-second delay, so by the time we get going, we will probably be ready to start. So I believe I am starting with this video from Ava. Is that correct?
Correct. Correct.
Okay. Do you want to introduce yourselves after that, or do you want to do that before?
After.
After? Okay. Well, let's go ahead and watch our video from Ava Bartlett. That's not the right one. Here we go.
Welcome to Monday Talks with the JCPS Youth Service Centers. I am Ava Bartlett, and I'm the Youth Service Center Coordinator for Fairdale High School in Georgia Chappie Tap. Monday Talks with the JCPS Youth Service Centers will introduce a different community resource to the JCPS community every second and fourth Monday at 1 p.m. Please be sure to tune in. Thank you and have a great day.
Alrighty, so there's our message from Ava. Now I'm going to pass it over to all of you and let our talk get going.
Awesome. We wonderfully thank you for allowing us to come on here today. I'm Madeline Marables with Atherton High School Youth Services Center, and we have some wonderful coordinators with us today to share some insightful information. The first coordinator I would like to introduce to you is Alicia Petaway. And Alicia, if you'll just go ahead and tell what school you're with and who you serve.
Okay, my name is Alicia Petaway, and I am the Family Resource Youth Service Center Coordinator at the Benet School and Seneca High School.
Thank you. And Adrian, can you go ahead and explain what school you're with? Adrian Graham.
Hello, I'm Adrian Graham, the youth. You hear me? Mm-hmm. I'm Adrian Graham, the Youth Services Coordinator at Eastern High School.
Awesome. And we have our wonderful chat moderator today, Miss Anita Moore. If you'll go ahead and tell me a little bit about you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Anita Moore, and I'm the Youth Service Center Coordinator at Olmsted Academy South.
Awesome. This is going to be a really great and exciting day. So I'll go ahead and start with a little historical reference because we had kind of agreed on that to explain a little bit about the Friskies. We started in 1990 under the Kentucky General Assembly, and we passed the CARA reform, which was a landmark piece of legislation. The goal was to achieve equitable educational opportunities for every child in Kentucky. A component that Reform Act was creation of the School-Based Family Resource and Youth Services Center, our FRISCY. The primary goal of these centers were to remove non-academic barriers to learning as a means to enhance student academic success. The mission of the statement of the mission statement by the Division of Family Resource and Youth Services Center to enhance students' abilities to succeed in school by developing and sustaining partnerships that promote early learning and successful transition to school, academic achievement and well-being, and graduation and transition into adult life. There are 107 centers here in Jefferson County, serving 141 schools. We have served numerous students, and we are continuing that progress today. So we're super excited to be here today for you guys to talk a little bit about what we do and how we do it. So I'll start the first question, and I would like to address that question to Alicia. What is the FRISCY, and what does the acronym stand for, the FRYSC? And also, what does the YSC stand for?
Okay, so the acronym is Family Resource Youth Service Center. That is the whole acronym. The FRC is the Family Resource Center, and those are typically in elementary school, so from pre-K until 5th grade. And then the YSC, which is Youth Service Center, that is for middle to high. So that could be 6th grade up through high school. Now, there are a couple of coordinators in the district that actually have all of those because of the schools that they serve, and I just happen to be one of them. So I'm actually at FRYSC because I go from kindergarten at the Benet School all the way up to high school at Seneca High School. So
thank you. That is excellent. Thank you. So supportive. Great information. Thank you. And the next question, I'll go ahead and start with Adrian. So Adrian, what are the roles and responsibilities that serve and the services that you offer, please?
So simply put, the roles, responsibilities, and services of a FRISCY are to, as you said, eliminate non-cognitive barriers to learning, right? So we can recognize and understand that the difference between students that do well and the students who struggle a bit, it's not always related to their cognitive abilities, right? So there's a quote that I love. It says that success isn't always measured by the position that one reaches in life, but by the obstacles in which they overcome. And we have students who are constantly faced with obstacles and barriers to their success. So we help them along that way. So the path, for all intents and purposes, the path for some students is smooth, right? So comparatively speaking, some students have winding roads, rocky roads, peaks, valleys. So our mission and our role is pretty much to help them traverse that terrain to get through with, the ultimate goal, and that is to graduate. And it's a non-traditional role also. So usually when you think of schools, you think the teachers who are responsible for curriculum and pedagogy. You have counselors who have credit-based pathways to graduation for students and testing. Assistant principals who manage curriculum and behavior in the buildings. And then you have principals who have all that and some. So those are primarily academically focused role groups. Ours is non-academic. So we look at the situations in which students need extra encouragement, extra help. It's not always, like as I said, it's not always what they have up here, but it's what's going on around here that can determine their outcomes, unfortunately. So, in reference to responsibilities, our main responsibility is to pretty much identify and mitigate, assuage inequities and opportunity gaps with our students, just to be overall support for our students. And it's pretty much in line with with Jefferson County Public Schools mission and core values, namely the aspects on care, which Friskies are pretty much care agents and care specialists, and equity. We are certainly equity agents and specialists in the district. So, I might be biased, but I think it's one of the better roles in any educational level. Financially, we earn a modest living, but the wealth comes in the fulfillment and the satisfaction we get from the role that we do in the jobs that we serve. So the services are usually unique to each building, right? So we all operate under a core set of components. The Youth Services Center and FRCs have their different components in which they abide by because the levels are so different. But youth services for middle and high, we operate under guidelines for referrals to health and social services. So the Frisky in your building will likely hold screenings, health-related screenings, and refer you out to situations that or agencies that can help you better serve your own family's needs, whether that's food assistance or housing or whatever. Many Friskies, you'll be hard to find a Frisky who hasn't walked a family through those situations and even sat in the office with these families or gone to meetings with social workers in relation to some of the needs that they have. So then you also have career exploration and development. So it's important that we have an interest in preparing our students for the next levels once they leave high school. So many of us are heavily involved with, on the high school level at least, college visits. Some hold career fairs, college fairs. I take a group of my ninth grade students, actually all the ninth grade students, to visit a college campus every year. Because I want to make sure they see this is what there is. And for the students that don't want to go, there are also resources available and information available for the Jefferson Community and Technical College, technical campus specifically. I've sat in the office and filled out paperwork with them and walked them through career paths that they can go to. Because I just don't like to, when the student says, I'm going to work, we have to understand that it's easy to say I'm going to work when I graduate. But my question is, work where? And how long do you plan on keeping that job if you don't have any post-secondary education or training? So you don't have to necessarily have college, but it has to be something with that. We also have summer and part-time job development as a component because some of our students, unfortunately, are responsible for contributing to the household. So they're not working for new shoes or cell phones or purses. They're working to help keep lights on, help keep food on the table. So we help with that. There's substance abuse education. Counseling is another component. So unfortunately, a lot of our students we have students who struggle with substance abuses. Many of us have even lost students to these substance abuses. So that's something that's very necessary. And many people who are disconnected from the schools won't always realize how important that is on various levels. I mean, even on a middle school level. I wouldn't imagine if it's foreign to elementary in some shape or fashion. So that's an avenue in which we work. Also, the family crisis and mental health counseling. Things happen. Simply put, things happen. Many of us have worked with families who've lost everything in a fire. Many of us work with families who have had to flee unsafe situations. So now they're left with little to nothing to move on and to get through and to succeed or to carry on. On top of those core components, we also work with character education. Just about every Frisky has some degree of character education, conflict mediation, peer mediation type program. All of us are going to assist in grades and credit recovery just to help. All of us will help with basic needs, school supplies, clothing, whether it's uniform school or not a uniform school. And then food. Some of our students don't eat. There's no food at home. We help with that. So we kind of tailor our services to the building we serve. Each school's different. Each, some special schools need special services and special attention. The Benet, as Ms. Pettaway said, she can probably speak to that better than I could.
Excellent. Thank you. And I'll go ahead and see if Alicia would like to speak next.
So Adrian did an excellent job of running down all the components and giving a little bit of information about each one of those. And like he said, I really want people to be reminded that each school is very different. And the coordinator at your school will actually tailor activities and programming based on the needs of the school. So for me, I have the Benet School, and that's a special school. So we do things a little bit different. So a lot of what I would normally do at Seneca is adapt it so that those students have the same opportunities and experiences that my other students have. So it just takes a little bit of tweaking and a little bit of creativity to make sure that those students and families still have everything that they need to be successful.
Excellent. Thank you. That is very good. Thank you. And the next question I'd like to ask, and we'll go ahead and start with Alicia, if you don't mind. How have your roles changed due to our recent pandemic and NTI learning? Please just give a good explanation, please.
Okay, so our role is still the same. We still eliminate barriers to education. We are a little bit more creative in getting that done. We utilize a lot of our community partners to help get those things done. We also are a little bit more creative on how to service our families. So we still provide basic needs services. We still provide some of the same programming. Some of it is virtual, and some of it is done through community partners. A lot of conversations on the phone, since we cannot see our babies, and I say babies because my students are my babies, but because we cannot see our students in person, we do a lot of communicating via telephone and email and all those things, but the services are still the same. We just have to be creative on how we get those done.
Excellent. Thank you. And of course, I know that may vary from school to school, so we appreciate that so much. On the fourth question, and then we'll take from the chat room thereafter, Anita, if you have any questions, just preparing. For the fourth question, what collaborating partners do the YSCs work with, such as in the district, our school, or community? Feel free to elaborate.
So collaboration with YSCs, Friskies in general, but YSC is very important. It's primary tenet of what we do. We work with other bodies. So if you assume each Frisky is on an island and unable to collaborate with anyone, we would still effectively service our families. We can, disaggregate data, analyze data, and be beneficial, but we just kind of widen or increase the depth of services that we can offer when we can collaborate with other entities. So with my students, I always follow ABG premise. Attendance, behavior, grades. So attendance, behavior, and grades are major predictors of a student's success. They're also when you can be proactive in recognizing them can give you insight on students in need. They're all predictors. So to that point, we're on an island. Attendance, I can see truancy records and whether students are coming by the data. But that first line of defense with those teachers, they can say, well, this student hasn't been coming to my class, or this student is coming late to my class. This student is removed from my class, not really paying attention, not engaged. That's a line of defense, and that's a collaborative partner that we have. And then you can go to, buildings have attendance teams. And this is, teachers, assistant principals, counselors, most importantly, the attendance clerk. And we kind of stay on top of the students who are not coming to school. And it ushers in the reasons why. Why aren't you coming to school? Let's find out what's happening here. These students are missing. Why are they missing? And even from a district level, when we have our assistant directors of pupil personnel that come and often a part of our attendance teams, and they help us, kind of figure out what's going on, what's happening. This is what's happening. These are supports the district has. These are suggestions from the district. We're never, I gave the assumption that we're on an island, but we're never really on an island because there's so many collaborative partners surrounding us. And, further with attendance, truancy advocates, and some schools hold truancy court in their buildings. So with behavior, the same thing. Those teachers are first. They get to see those behaviors slipping. They get to recognize those anomalies with each student and call them out. And there are several times where, teachers say, this may not be anything, and those are the ones I love. And I always tell them, let me know. It doesn't matter whether it turns out to actually be something. But just let me know. Let's keep that going. You'll never be bugging me if you're calling me and letting me know, I think this might be something. But with the behavior, we work closely with, our assistant principals. And that's, sometimes they're just saying, hey, I'm this kid, I'm seeing him too much. I need you to do something. I need you to work with him. And I love it because that is restorative. In my building, when students come back from suspension, specifically when there's an offense with another student, they meet with me. And we've had situations where they leave and they're, laughing and joking down the hall, and they recognize what they did was wrong and it was silly and we shouldn't have done it. And there are times where there's, I don't like you, but we can exist together. And that's, unfortunately, that's how it goes sometimes. But I commend our administration for even having that as an avenue and opening that up and being able to work together and collaborate with that. And then we have to that point, our positive behavior intervention supports. And that's within the building and district personnel coming in and looking at the data. What's happening? Where are we going? We've even moved towards kind of redirecting and changing how we discipline in our building based on some of those reports and some of those racial inequities that we see in those reports. So still being effective is just kind of, changing the way we deliver our services, because the ultimate goal is to take care of all the students, right? So, and then we all contract services and therapists and mentors and programs and to help those students in that. So that's pulling in the community. We've gone small and just expand, and that's how we usually do with every situation, and even with grades. Once again, teachers. The student isn't turning in their work. The student is in danger of failing. They are not keeping up with the class level. What's going on? And they're always predictors. Like I said before, that ABG is always going to be a predictor of a student's success. And if we pay attention, it's a quiet cry for help from those students. So then you have the counselors who, in reference to those grades, we've met about services for students. In this building particularly, we've worked with the counselors and assistant principal. We kind of had like a powwow with students who were failing. This is where you are. This is where you need to be. What can we do in between to get you where you need to be? What needs to happen? More times than not, there are levels to it. There's other layers to it. When you dig deep, I call students pineapples all the time. And it means they're hard on the outside, but sweet on the inside. And it just takes someone to dig in and really see it. And just those collaborative efforts and that work really helps with that. So collaborative partners are important. I can go on and on and on because it does go on and on. We have, so Friskies in general have psychology, sociology, social work, education, counseling, even business backgrounds, academic backgrounds. But and that lends to our acumen, but it also widens our network of resources. Friskies are among some of the most resourceful people. I'm wowed by some of the people who can get anyone on the phone and reach out to anyone at any time. We're some of the most resourceful people in the district. So, and we've worked with a lot of departments in the district. We're under academic services with Dr. Coleman under that umbrella, but we work closely with other departments. We work closely with diversity, equity, and poverty, even accountability. We work closely with parent engagement office, with homeless office, with, clothing assistance program, with, outside of the district, area ministries and Salvation Army, Greek letter organizations. The Omega Psi Phi holds the Men Equality Program and the Lifestyle Choices Forum for males. It's very uplifting and encouraging and self-esteem and all that. And then youth services centers, being awesome, created the Women of Worth Conference to answer that gap in opportunities and inequity, and does the same thing and partners with Jefferson Community and Technical College, Sullivan, Norton, and various businesses that are all centered to the same purpose, and that's to help and to reach. It takes a village, and people say it all the time, so it kind of becomes like a, overused adage, but it is true. It does take a village, and we definitely appreciate and embrace our village to help our students.
Thank you. And I've often said that we are a one-stop shop of support. So absolutely. I can tell equally that each one of you all are one-stop shops of support with absolutely. Several resources and information and collaborative partners. And so, Anita, I just wanted to see if you all had any questions in the chat.
Well, thank you, Madeline. Yes, we do. First question we have, can parents, staff, and students suggest programs to their center coordinators?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay. So let me just elaborate on that a little bit, Adrian. So every other year, coordinators will send something home to families, and it is our needs assessment. And that is one way that you can have input as a parent or a student. Definitely fill out your needs assessment. That's my shameless plug. We really want you to do that and get that done. But at any time, you can contact the coordinator at your school or at your student's school and offer suggestions. And I will give a disclaimer for that. It doesn't mean that we will make that program or that suggestion a reality, but we do welcome it, because what we would like for our centers to reflect is our school buildings and what our families and our students need. So all suggestions are welcome.
Excellent. Thank you. That was very helpful. And that needs-based assessment is very important. So please do that. If you get that link, please complete that. And the next question, Anita.
Okay, next question, everyone. With so many families struggling with food and financial resources in these times, how can Friskies be of service? And I do want everyone to know that I posted the Neighborhood Place contact information website, but please go ahead with that answer.
You know, that's a great start right there. The Neighborhood Place and any community agencies, like I said, area ministries help a lot. It's important to let us know. You reach out to us. We'll do our best to find some way of helping. Very seldom will you ever hear a Frisky say, "I can't help you with it." That's just not even in our vocabulary. That's not how we operate. We'll find a way to help. And office hours are office hours, but they really don't apply to most Friskies. We're in a needs-based service, so we help whenever it's necessary. So reach out to us the best way you can. Contact the school, visit us on the website, get to us directly, get to us from one of your students, another student you may have at a different building. They can contact us. Neighbor, friends. I've been stopped at grocery stores. I've been stopped out in public. Friends of students have needed help. We'll help either way.
Excellent. That is so true. We are definitely available to you. And did you have any additional questions, Anita? If not, we'll go ahead and proceed with the next few questions.
I do have one additional question, kind of still on this same topic, Madeline, before we move forward. How can a school get their own youth service center?
If you all don't mind.
Okay, I can speak about.
Yes, go ahead.
I can speak a little bit about that. So the Family Resource Center program itself is a grant program. So you can request a coordinator at your school if you do not have one, but that does take it's a process for one. So let me just say that, and it takes buy-in from the people in that building. So the principal has to kind of be on board, the counselors. If that school has a SBDM, they are required to be a part of that process as well. And then it has to be an application. So when the state opens up applications for that, then you have to submit an application and be approved before you can get one.
And to that point, it's important to note that, Friskies is a grant program, and it came from the Kentucky Educational Reform Act. And we've long had to fight for, not fight, but advocate and lobby, literally, for support from our state legislature and policymakers. Thankfully, we've gotten to the point where we have bipartisan support, which is, as we all know, unheard of at times like this. And across the board, they love the job we do, and they see how beneficial it is. So recently, there's been cuts, but there was a major push to add more centers. Our district, every time the state had to cut back, Jefferson County Public Schools filled in that gap with funds. So if you happen to be at a school that doesn't have a Frisky, first of all, you can still get Frisky-related help. I've helped families that are at schools that don't have a Frisky, and it wasn't a problem to do, and I'd gladly do it again. So I would say call any Frisky. I'll say at this point, call me and Ms. Petaway. We will help you. We'll find someone to help you. So don't worry about what's not in your building. Those same resources, the same efforts, we are employees of the state and Jefferson County Public Schools. So our mission, our goals, our passions, our desire is to help every student in the state and Jefferson County Public Schools. So, I had a middle school and would send students to the high school. And when a grant period came around, I wrote a grant to include the high school. And then when the grant period came around, we wrote a grant to separate the middle and high. And then when grant periods come around, there's schools that say, hey, I want a center. So we have an addition. We used to have less than 100 centers and just, a lot less coordinators. So, schools serve, less than 100 schools serve, and a lot less coordinators and centers serving those schools. Now, as Madeline said, we're 107 centers with 141 schools served. So there is an opportunity. So don't hold out hope. Once upon a time, I would have said it's not going to happen. We just won't have additional schools. And then, like I said, that bipartisan support and the district really embracing our efforts and our role in supporting us just kind of created the avenue for us to be able to expand. And maybe one day every school will have someone on hand to help. But I think most schools are covered. And like I said, if you're not, contact Mr. Graham at Eastern, contact Ms. Pettaway at Benet or Seneca, and then I'm sure there's a ton of other Friskies that would love to help as well.
Excellent, thank you. And just one little fun fact I would like to throw in there, that over the past 3 years, 300,000 students have been served who are free and reduced lunch eligible, but also Friskies have potential to serve 600,000 students each school year, not including the 0 to 3 population. It shows that an average make 12 million Frisky contacts and student contacts, 4 million family contacts each year. So just so you know, we are a great team working together to create and support our families. Just showing the contact relationship, it definitely is far reaching and it's not set to just one school. I'm sure that those are several contacts that have happened outside of just our building. So I wanted to go ahead and ask question number 5. If I were a parent and wanted to contact my students through the YFC, how do I reach them? And please give all means of contact. Although you've already mentioned a few things, Alicia, how would they go about contacting you?
Okay, so there are several ways that we can be contacted. So I do believe that Anita is going to post something in the chat box. So that is an avenue. That website is an avenue. There should also be a Frisky email that you can send us an email, and it will be directed to the corresponding coordinator for your child's school. But we have the school websites. All of the coordinators are listed on their school website, so you can use that avenue. And then we have a Frisky website as well, and you can do that. But if all else fails, if you can't figure out any other way, call the school directly, and the clerks or whoever answers the door answers their phone. Do not go to the schools yet. I'm so sorry, don't do that. But call the school, and then they will connect you with the coordinator that is supposed to be, for you. And we all have a means to communicate during this pandemic, so don't worry about that. Just call the school and they will get you in contact with us.
Excellent, thank you. Very, very helpful. I know during NTI, having a variety of reaching points is important. Question number 6, I would like to ask, what are some important information that you would like parents and guardians to be aware of about your school in the start of the school year? So anything essential that you would want them to know as far as forms or things that they need to complete?
Get to know your Frisky. That's, like I said, I'm biased, so I have to say it. Get to know your Frisky. And even if you haven't used your Frisky or Youth Services Center coordinators or in the past, and you feel like you have no intention on using them in the future, it's still safe to just know how to contact us. You may even want to volunteer with us. You may want to donate to us if you're in a position to where you don't feel like you would need us. But need knows no racial bounds or economic bounds. So anyone can be, we're like insurance. Anyone can need us at any time. And we've helped people who would have sworn there's no way I will ever need you. I had a middle and high, and then as seniors and a junior, two siblings had to see me, and I helped with a sensitive situation the family was experiencing. And they said, I thought you were just work with Black kids or just the poor kids. Or, I would see you in the halls and I knew you did that or that, but I didn't think you, would help with things like this. And this was a custody dispute, and it was an unsafe situation, and we helped the two of them. And, ever since then, it's just every time they say, Mr. Graham, Mr. Graham, Mr. Graham. And at first, they would have never suspected that they would have been working with. So it's important to just reach out. And like I said, even if you just want to volunteer or donate and help with us. I've had countless parents, thankfully, to say, what can we do to help? How can I help? People know throughout this building and different parts of other schools or district that I go to, I always say, Goodwill's going to be mad at me, because I always tell families, don't necessarily be eager to give clothes to Goodwill. Give it to the clothing assistance program, because they give clothes away to our students, not sell it. You get the same tax write-off. It's the same benefit, but it helps the students in our building. And there have been situations where even teachers in my building have given clothes, and then they'll come and see me. One time in particular, a teacher was teary-eyed, and he said, there's a shirt that sat in my closet for years that I keep seeing the same student wear at least twice a week. It's like, that's the way it works. So one person's trash is another person's treasure type frame of mind. So use those avenues, regardless of whether you need the help or whether you want to volunteer and give for the help. And that's in the building. So, and if you don't, we've said this already, if you don't have a Frisky in your building, reach out. We'll find some way to help you. We'll find someone to help you. I volunteered. Ms. Pettaway volunteered. There are others who will volunteer. It's not a big deal to us. It's giving, it's helping. That's what we do. Someone told me, you really like your job, don't you? I said, I love it. They said, but you must really feel like you are doing mission work. So that's exactly what I feel like it is. So it's a job, but there's something deeper, something greater to what we're doing. So to that point, get to know your teachers too. I'm gonna stay on topic, I'm sorry. Get to know who your teachers are. Don't let your kid come to the building and you don't know who they are seeing and how they're reaching your student and how they're educating your child. You can be connected to Parent Portal and be, in real time, find out, did your kid miss class? Did they not turn in some work they were supposed to? This is real time. You can spy on your kids with Parent Portal and connect to your building for their benefit, of course. And then you reach out to the school and they can get you connected with that. You'll likely be contacted by your Frisky regarding the educational benefits form. You may not feel like you need free and reduced lunch services, but that form needs to be filled out by everyone in the building because it benefits the building and it benefits those students who don't have those luxuries to not have to worry about something like that. And the thing is, so when I was in school, your lunch number, either the prefix or suffix of the lunch number, would identify whether you are a paid student or a reduced student or free student. And beyond that, when you come to the counter to check out, you're either paying full price, you're paying a reduced amount, or you're paying nothing at all. And that immediately will identify that kid's free, that kid's reduced. That stigma isn't even associated with the way the EBF forms or the educational benefits forms are now and the lunch applications. The way those are done now, there's a generic number that everyone has. There's no way to identify who's paid, who's reduced, or any of that. The stigma is completely removed. You have no money is exchanged. You have accounts that you operate under. So it's a much different situation. And, like I said, it benefits the building. It benefits the other students. So please fill those out. You will, like I said, likely be contacted by Frisky trying to get you to fill it out if you haven't. But don't use that as an opportunity to get to know your Frisky. Just do it before we have to come find you. And then there's also, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, thank you very much. I was going to allow Alicia a little opportunity to speak as well to see if there were any forms that she wanted to emphasize as well.
So there's a couple, of course. There is a residency form that is very important. We would like for every single student in the district to fill out that form. So please, please, please fill it out. And we know that there are lots of forms, but they are very, very important. Also, we're not in the building right now, but we will hopefully soon, one day in the near future, maybe be back in the building. The medication form is very important. So once we get back in the brick and mortar buildings, if your student is on any type of medication, whether it be over the counter or prescription, we need that medication form. We cannot administer any medication to your student without that form. So that is also important as well. And then if you haven't already, I don't know, I'm hoping most of the parents who are watching have already done this, but all the parent forms, they are in the parent place. So please make sure all of those are complete. We would greatly appreciate it.
Thank you so much. That is awesome. And Alicia, because I have you on, I wanted to go ahead and do an aha moment, something that you would like to share that has been beneficial for you in making an impact on a student or a family's life.
Oh gosh, there's so many. This is my 11th year, so I have tons and tons of aha moments. But I would say the ones that are probably more the most impactful for me are the students who come back, who you don't realize at the time that they're listening to anything that you say, or you don't realize at the time a program that you put on benefited them in any type of way. So the aha moments for me are when the students come back and say, thank you, Ms. Pettaway, for believing in me, or thank you for being hard on me. You made me do what I needed to do to graduate, or any of those type of I was listening type situations are my aha moments.
Awesome. Thank you. And Adrian, would you like to share one of your aha moments as well?
Just like Ms. Pettaway said, when students come back, and this is where I am now. I was actually listening when you work with. We've worked with students who are homeless, and homeless by the legal definition. Not you don't have a stable place to sleep. But many of us have experienced students that are homeless in that they sleep outside. They're homeless. We had a student years ago who found out he was sleeping in the building, literally homeless on park benches. And, we had a conversation, and I've known this student for a while, and he had given up. And I said, well, years ago, you told me you wanted to do this. Yeah, but I can't do that. It's not going to work. This is this and that. So we had a pathway for him to get to where he wanted to go. It was just kind of the finish line was, let's get you to graduation, then you're going to college. He said he wanted to go to college, so we want to make sure that happened. He went. He wanted to go. He got to the point where he was telling people, well, I'm going to this university. And I would pull him to the side and say, you're not going there. You're not going. It's like, oh, Mr. Graham, why you hating? It's like, it's not hating, but don't lie to yourself. You're not going to go to that school. This school, and I sat him down, I said, this school has this average GPA to start. This school has this average test score to start. I said, I'm not saying you can never go to this school, but, for reasons of his own and not of his own, he wasn't prepared in his high school time to get there. Fast forward, he sends me an email out of nowhere. Mr. Graham, just dropping you a line. I'm at, I think he was in Colorado at the time with a junior college playing football, running track. I'm sorry. He said, just wanted to thank you for everything you've done for me and this and that. And, I was having my man cry moment. I was fighting back because that particular student really meant a lot to me. All the students mean a lot to us, but he had given up. And we, and it was a collective unit, collaboration, but we made sure he wouldn't do that based on his circumstances. So we had that email and we stayed in contact, and then he came to see me. Mr. Graham, I graduated. Now I'm a graduate assistant at this school. I'm coaching and I'm working on my master's. I have my house and you should see it. He was showing me pictures of it. He said, I'm never going to be homeless again. I have this. Said I'm working on learning about this real estate thing, and it was just kind of like it was warming my heart. So that was one particular situation where he came back and reached out to us. But and I'm just slide this in real quick. So I was on vacation in Florida, in Orlando, and we love our jobs, but every now and then we need vacation. So it's early in the morning. We're getting ready to set out, and on the TV, I'm watching the news. My daughters say that's Daddy's show, the news. I'm always watching it, and I heard Family Resource Youth Service Centers of Kentucky, and immediately I'm thinking I'm in Florida. I'm thinking, I really needed this vacation. It's in my brain. Frisky's on my brain, but no, they were running a news story on Frisky. And the Orlando public school system had created a program that they modeled after Frisky, after the Family Resource Youth Service Centers of Kentucky. So I was just wowed by that, and then learned that a program in California was based off the Frisky program. But even further, the Kentucky Educational Reform Act birthed Frisky. The Kentucky Educational Reform Act in 1990 was a groundbreaking legislation, groundbreaking policy in education. It was, I can't say it created, I can't say it was the catalyst for, but it became a framework for parts of the No Child Left Behind legislation in 2001, which then went into Every Student Succeeds Act. So these are major educational reforms. And Kara, where Friskies come from, had a hand in that. So it's just, I don't know if that's an aha or a wow moment for me that just really makes you really embrace the role that we have, and just, the support we get from the state, the support we get from the district, the support we get in our buildings, it is just unmatched. It's perfect. It's wonderful.
Thank you so much. That's excellent. And I agree. It's great to know that we have made a huge impact and continue to make an impact around the world. And so I want to go ahead and allow Anita an opportunity to see if we have any wonderful questions in the chat. Anita?
Yes, everyone, we do. First question would be, what is the most needed item that can be donated to a YSC?
So it really depends on the school and what the school needs. So if someone is wanting to donate, they can contact the school and ask the coordinator what they are in need of at that particular time. I know for me personally, it's hygiene items, but that could be different, for Madeline School or for Adrian School. So it really just depends on the school.
I agree. It really depends on the school. Holiday assistance is great. Not necessarily money and gift cards. Some people want to help, and I say, okay, I appreciate this card, but if you could, can you take this and go buy something with it? Angel trees, angel trees from within the school, Thanksgiving assistance, that food and those needs as needed. So, willing to help is amazing. It's great. It's awesome. Like Ms. Petaway said, reach out to your school, reach out to your Frisky, see what the need is, or just kind of be ready. If kind of reach out and say, I'm willing to help when you need me. That's perfect. That's amazing right there.
Thank you so much. Anita, did you have additional questions?
One more good question, Madeline. How can parents get involved in their youth service center or family resource center?
Yay!
Yeah.
There are tons of ways. Oh my goodness, I'm so excited for that question. Can y'all tell? So each family resource center has an advisory council. I know for me personally, it has been difficult for me to keep a parent on my advisory council. We need parents on the advisory council. So please, please, please contact your coordinator. And if you are a Seneca parent, please contact me immediately. That would be great. But also, we welcome any volunteers into our centers. Normally, that would be very easy to do with the pandemic. There's a lot of restrictions and stuff because we're not allowed in the buildings right now, and definitely no visitors at this time. But do not give up. Please keep in contact with your coordinator. We will definitely let you know when there are any volunteer opportunities for sure. And then we always, welcome suggestions and feedback so that we can be better at what we do. Our primary focus is to serve our families, and we definitely want to do that in the best way possible.
Perfect.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I wanted to go ahead and leave out with a couple of last questions. But Danita, did you have any additional one that wanted to add to my last couple of questions?
Thank you, Madeline. At this time, I think we're okay. We've looked at it. So are you?
Okay. Thank you very much.
Madeline, you're muted.
Oh, sorry. Thank you. We're super excited that we're doing these conversations. And so I wanted to know, what are the additional topics and guests that you all plan to have with resources and information? And feel free to answer that question.
Go ahead.
Sorry. So we will be on this channel every second and fourth Monday. It will always be at 1 o'clock, second and fourth Monday, and we will have a variety of topics and speakers. It will not always be us. We just wanted to introduce ourselves to you for this first one, but there will be community partners and community agencies. So I know a couple of the ones that are coming up in the near future are transitioning students. So from fifth grade to the middle school, from middle school to high school, those will be topics. There will also be a talk about FAFSA and applying for FAFSA for your students who will be entering college. There is a holiday Monday chat, and I think we may be even doing some fun recipes for that one. So we have a lot of good, interesting topics for our students and our families, and hopefully you guys see the benefit and it is helpful to you.
Thank you so much. That sounds like it's going to be a wealth of information, and we're going to have a great time here on the Monday Talk Show. And just want to check back in with Anita, just make sure I didn't miss anything before we conclude our program.
Madeline, just checking through the list of questions and comments, and at this point we do not have any additional questions, but wonderful comments from those out there in chat land. We're doing an awesome job, and thank you guys.
We're just super excited for our first show, and hopefully everyone's enjoyed and gotten a lot from it today. Please contact your Frisky. We are here to support you in all things, in all aspects. Please reach out. If you haven't learned anything today, we want you to know that we are available to you. We are here to serve you. We are here to support your family. And so we're just so happy to be here today to help you. Thank you.
Yes, thank you all so much. I believe Kevin sent me a video. Am I supposed to play that now? Yes? I think that's correct. Hopefully. Yeah, okay. Let me pull it over, and you won't be able to see it because I'm not sharing my screen, but it will be playing. So here we go. Oh, Oh no, Kevin, it still says it's processing. No, here we go. All right, that is the end of the video. It was great. I was afraid to put some music over top of it because I didn't want an ad to play.
Well, thank you so much. We appreciate being here today. Thank you.
Thank you all for coming, and thank you so much for the awesome work you all do for our students and for our families. We really appreciate you, and hopefully you all saw a lot of that love in the chat. People were really loving you guys up, so thank you. Bye, you all. Have a great Monday.
You too.
Thanks. Alrighty, everybody. It is 1:58, and we have a session coming in soon. So let's go ahead and take a look at our schedule for the day. We have Mastery Connect coming up, and I believe that is with Stephen Watts, who I don't see in here yet. So I'm going to invite them one more time just in case that link got messed up somehow. So let's do that real quick. And this is in structure. Okay, here we go. And invite him one more time. Please remember, you can follow us on Twitter at JCPSDigIn is our name. So let me go home here so you can see what that looks like. So, and if you follow us, please make sure to tweet at us. You can tag us in pictures and all that stuff. You can also tweet using the hashtag JCPSDigIn. And that is how we will see all the awesome things you do. You can see Danielle here just tweeted our Screencastify report, and we've had 64,711 videos created in the month of September. That is just an insane number. So kudos to you and everybody using Screencastify. That is so awesome. And we all know that Screencastify is such a powerful tool for asynchronous learning. So great job, JCPS. It said we had 3,995 educators creating videos. So that's just a staggering number. Remember, the videos that we create on here, so that Frisky session we just had, the session before that on Gifted and Talented, and all the sessions we had this morning over Savvis, over PBL, over Learning Paths for Kindergarten, over School Connects. All those things can be found if you go to the JCPS Digital Learning channel, which you are currently on. And if you go to playlists, it'll all be uploaded to the Teacher NTI 2.0 playlist. So, we are just waiting on our friend from Mastery Connect to get in here. So let me just send a text. Maybe they had a hard time with the link or something this morning. You can see Susan Price is in the chat to give some support for our Mastery Connect session here. Susan, I hope you're doing well today. And we have some of our digital innovation leaders that are in the chat as well. I know you've seen Danielle Washburn in there. We also had Stephen Durham, and we had Rebecca Reynolds in there as well. And they are here to help answer any questions that you may have. Remember, you can find this schedule. I will actually, I'll post the link in there for you, so you can have the schedule for next week here as well. But if you go to jcps.me/NTI, you can click on the Teacher Toolkit, and that'll take you to where you can click on the live virtual learning schedule there. You can also see the NTI 2.0 teacher playlist that we just talked about. You can also see things like the curriculum frameworks, the instructional frameworks, the teacher backpack, which Susan Price did work on with one of our other innovation leaders, Kathleen Receiver. We have the National Quality for Online Teaching Standards linked on there. We have some Gale, Mastery Connect, Literacy Footprints, Edmentum resources. We also have resources for Screencastify, or things like Google Meet or Microsoft Teams meetings for synchronous learning, as well as some of our departmental resources. So the ARE tool from our DEP team, or the deeper learning resources, or NTI 2.0 recording participation, things like that are on there. And we also have some digital agility certifications to help you become a more digitally agile educator. So level 1, level 2 Google certification, Screencastify Master, Smart, Apple Teacher, Microsoft Certified Expert, Nearpod, Khan Academy. All that information can be found there. I'm getting a text message, so let's see. Okay, thank you. So, yeah, if you are joining us today, please let us know where you're from, what you teach, and if you have any questions. Hopefully, we won't have any internet issues. I think it's been pretty good so far today, but it is raining in Louisville, and we all know how that goes. So, all right, well, let's go on Twitter, and we can... So we've already talked about the awesome Screencastify stuff that Danielle tweeted. Let's see some other stuff. Jenny Falcone, I don't know if you follow her on Twitter. She's awesome. She's been doing the Star Wars musical theater stuff lately. Mary is also another great follow here as well. Let's see here. We've got John Pedigo, who teaches at Wagner. He's a really techie teacher. He's awesome. Rebecca Reynolds doing some Minecraft stuff today. I think she was with third graders at Wilkerson Elementary, which is probably super fun. Oh, okay. So Mastery Connect trainer's being sent the link now, so hopefully we can get him in here soon. So if you all don't let me mind, I sent the invite to Stephen Watts to get in, but hopefully that is the correct person, but it seems like somebody else joined in here as well. So it's Allison Heinrich, another awesome educator. You can see earlier we talked about this. We have our things to monitor, which Kathleen Receiver tweeted out. But this is the thing that we're giving our school digital innovation leaders every week on their Google Classroom with us. So it's got people to follow, cool core tool updates, and we have a feature video. So this week our feature video is some Savas training. There's also a link on there to see your district digital innovation leaders by zone. So depending on which zone you are, you're going to have different people that are there to support you. I, for example, am one of the digital innovation leaders for high school zone. Steven said he didn't get to see the Broncos versus Bucks game. Can you please share how the Bucks cheated? I don't think it's cheating when your team's bad, Steven. I think it's just called a loss. Steve likes to give me a hard time. I'm a big Patriots fan, so and all the hate that comes along with that as well. But you know, when you're walking around with 6 rings, that's what happens. You know. Let's see what else we have on here. We had Carrie Mook this morning on talking about her awesome daily learning stuff with her kindergartners, and you see Christy Mudd there retweeting that. The Barker Fink crew is tweeting about their 2 Twitter all-stars, by the way, talking about their crayfish conundrum. Nora Hodge is awesome. They work at Southern High School. That's the school digital innovation leader for Southern. Let's see, we had Kyle Chandler acting all fun this morning. You can see my t-shirt here while we're still waiting. Kentucky Go Digital. I believe that the live sessions with Kentucky Go Digital, I think, start on October 11th at 11 a.m. And I will be DJing that one. And we're supposed to have some awesome... okay. So it's not letting him in for some reason. So that's where our trainer happens to be today. I am a Brady lover, Steven. That is correct. Although I am a big Cam Newton fan. He is awesome. And I've really enjoyed watching this Patriots offense. Steven, welcome.
There we go.
I was really running out of stuff to talk about, so you got here at the perfect time. How are you doing today?
Doing well. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. So the clock is all yours whenever you want it. So just, do you know how to share your screen on Google Hangouts?
I'm not as familiar with that one as I am with Zoom, no.
Okay, so if you scroll up to the top right of the window, there should be those little 3 dots. We always call it the snowman. And if you click that, it'll say share screen up there, and you should be able to do it from there.
Awesome. That works. There we go.
Alrighty. So go ahead, and if that white box right there that says Chrome OS, if you just click the little X that appears at the top right corner of that, fantastic. And it's all you.
Okay, awesome. Thanks. Get this going. Okay, get this out of there. Put that back up. Let me open that back up. I did not mean to close that. Get this out. So, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Stephen Watts. I'm your Learning Services Associate for Instructure. I am going to be focusing today, of course, on a core video overview, a core demonstration overview of Master Connect for today, for the hour and a half that we have together. So give me 1 second to get this pulled back up. It's being a little bit slow today. My internet is. Okay, there we go. Okay.
So I'll let you know if we have any questions in the chat. I know Susan Price is in there to help support, but if there's something that we need answered while you're showing us some stuff, I'll go ahead and chime in and let you know.
Okay, that sounds great.
And then, since you are using Google Slides, do you know how to put closed captioning on?
For the slides?
Yes.
I don't believe.
It's just taking a second to load up. It might need a second. Never mind. It's not popping up. Okay, we don't have to worry about it.
Yeah, we're not doing that.
Oh, there it is. So if you go right next to pointer right there, you see where it says CC? We just click right there. Yep, and then just hit allow.
There you go.
Awesome. Thank you, Stephen.
Yep, not a problem. Okay, so we're gonna just do a quick overview of a couple of things with the pedagogy and background of what Master Connect is. I'm gonna assume that we don't have any issues with anyone getting into their Master Connect account at this point. You guys have had it for a while, so I'm just gonna go ahead and skip past this the initial slide here. So, but if anybody does have a reason that they can't get into their account, just go ahead and let me know now. So I can let support know, but again, I don't think anyone's going to have any issues with that. Don't believe so. So I'm going to go past that. So real quickly about myself, I'm a former high school educator for 7 years in South Carolina, which is where I live. I taught high school social studies, AP European history, U.S. government, economics, you name it. If it was in the social studies department, I taught it. Then I became the district administrator for instructional learning and professional development for about 2 years before joining Instructure. Excuse me. I love to cook. It's one of my favorite pastimes when I'm not busy doing other things, as well as music and books, and of course, spending time with my family. I have a 14-year-old daughter who plays volleyball, so that is quite a busy schedule this time of year, especially in the fall. So just a little bit about myself before we move on. So today's session objectives are going to be, when we're done, you will be able to navigate Master Connect, create a tracker, find and create the assessments that we need for our students, assess student knowledge using a variety of methods, using data to identify levels of understanding, target our students for appropriate levels of intervention, and understand the various report types available in Master Connect itself. So that is what we're going to be covering in the hour and a half that we have together. So we're going to talk about the next step on our agenda here. We're at the getting started phase now. We're going to go to the what and why Master Connect, a little brief overview, look at navigation, do a quick little demo of what it looks like from the teacher-student point of view, and then jump right into the mastery tracker aspect of it. So what they are, why they are the way they are, why they're organized, the layout of what goes on inside of mastery tracker, and then how we use those. And then we will talk briefly about the pins and the community feature in Master Connect, and then any remaining time we will focus on account development, where you are actually in the system creating assessments with me. That way I can be a facilitator for you. Most importantly, stay with me as we're going through this. We have a lot to cover, and I will go over things as many times as you need me to. Participate when we're actively doing things. Ask questions. My preferred way of having questions, of course, is typically going to be out loud, but given the system setup that we have, we'll probably be doing it via, user feedback, chat, that kind of thing. So however you want to ask questions, feel free to do so. I love questions. I want to make sure that that everyone leaves the session today fully informed and equipped. It is totally okay to make mistakes as we're learning this system. It is, you can't break it. I've been using it for over 7 years, and you cannot make a mistake that we can't fix. And most importantly, however, I want us to have fun. I think that once you begin to use Master Connect, you will truly understand the power it gives you to understand where your students are at the individual standards-based level, and that will allow us to be better practitioners for our students. So real quick, let's look at the 3 different types of teaching models that exist. We have traditional mastery learning, and of course, performance-based mastery learning. So in the traditional setup, we have our planning phase that we always do, and then we teach, practice, assess, grade, and record, and then we start all the way back over at the beginning where we plan again. So of course, the problem with this, as we all are well aware of, is that we don't necessarily know where our students are. So they make a 70%, they make a 65%, they make a 95%, whatever the percentage is on that assessment, we don't know what that missing link is without doing some very significant manual data analysis. And so we just keep on going. And so we just hope that eventually maybe they'll get the information at some point. So we came up with traditional mastery learning, where we reteach, reassess, and re-record to kind of fill that gap in. But notice there's 2 things here. One, we still don't necessarily know where our students are. So yes, we're reteaching, but what are we reteaching? The whole thing? A part of it? Which parts? How do we reteach it? To what students? How do we determine that? And also the amount of time involved is going to be a lot more, because not only are we doing our traditional teaching, we're actually reteaching it all over again, reassessing it, and re-recording it. Performance-based mastery learning allows us to integrate the assessment through recording phases and the reteaching phases as we're doing our teaching and practice with our students. So as we're teaching, we're giving them formative assessments to understand where they are as we're teaching them content. And once we've taught the content, we're able to then give formative assessments where we can see how they are when they're doing their practice. So that at the end of the day, we're able to tweak our teaching, our practices, in real time, or as close to real time as we can make it, so that our students get the content delivered to them and taught to them in the most effective way possible. And of course, one of the biggest benefits, other than the fact that our students will become mastery learners, is that we save a substantial amount of time because we're able to adjust as needed. So I do want to bring out some of the new features that we do have in Master Connect that rolled out this past summer. These are the new student enhanced assessment features. These are applicable only to item bank item assessments, not for teacher uploaded or created. So students can now do the following things when they are taking an item bank assessment in Master Connect. This applies to all Certica Navigate item bank questions, which of course is what your district has. They can choose a high contrast theme, update the font size, zoom in, access full screen, and review the questions prior to submission. So again, this only works for item bank assessments. We do have the catch caveat about in classic mode versus enhanced assessment mode. All Certica Navigate item bank questions are in fact in the enhanced assessment. They have all been upgraded. But we do like to point that out. You may see this at some point, but it's not likely to see that in Certica Navigate. We also have the ability to enable text-to-speech. I would normally send this link in the help article into the chat, but you can look it up on the help section, which I will talk to you about what that looks like in a moment, where the help articles are if you're not familiar. But we can now enable text-to-speech for our students on item bank assessments, where we'll read them out loud for them. And I will actually show this to you when we get into the system. I'll bypass the slide deck for that. So let's take a look real quickly at a mastery tracker before we actually jump into our training for today. So what we have here is this. If you are not familiar with what a mastery tracker looks like, this is what it looks like. So we have a list of students here on the left. We have our standards across the top, and we have data. So this is Master Connect is a very visual software. If you're not familiar with it already, it's very visual. It gives you a lot of cues that you can use without having to pull reports, run reports, or anything like that at all. You can get an idea of what's going on with your students and in your class. So in this particular instance, we have one assessment that we've delivered to all of our students on the standards that we see in front of us. I can see that it's one assessment because there's number one above each of these standards right here. Okay. So that is letting me know that I've given one assessment, and now I can look at the information that my students have scored on this particular assessment. So I can see, for example, that I have one standard that is doing very well. So right here, I'm not going to necessarily be spending a whole lot of time on that particular standard because they've already done advanced proficient, right? However, I have some other standards just looking at this that I'm probably going to focus more of my attention on. Also, we have individual student information across the rows. So I can see that some of my students are probably going to require more of my attention. I may need to teach them a little bit differently than I normally would, or maybe, there's all kinds of options that I have here. So now that I'm armed with this information, this pre-assessment that I've given, I go ahead and do these things. I plan my teaching and practice effectively. And now I've assessed them 4 and 5 more times on some of these standards across the board. And you can see the growth. So overall, the students are doing well in almost every single standard, with the exception of this one, NSC.5. They're not doing very well at all. So that lets me know as an educator that I have some things I need to focus on. So with this particular standard, it may mean that I need to look back at what I'm doing is in the classroom. I may need to get some outside assistance from other teachers or coaches to help me understand why my students are not doing very well on this particular standard. We also have an individual student here, Freeman Conyers, who's not doing very well at all across the board. He's not doing well. So that means I need to focus my attention on him specifically. Perhaps if he has an EL teacher or a SPED teacher or a coach or anybody else who works with this particular student, I can reach out to them for assistance. And if there isn't anyone, then perhaps maybe there are some tools and resources that we can allocate to help Freeman do a better job at getting the mastery, because something is obviously occurring with this particular student. So again, this is just a simple before and after. So we've done a pre-assessment, and now we have that information based on the pre-assessment. We're able to teach and practice with our students and then assess them. So all we've done is just do some basic comparison and contrast here. We haven't even looked into the system itself yet, but as you can hopefully glance at so far, you can see the power of that Master Connect allows you to have with your students. And this is possible because of the ITS model. So the ITS model stands for Identify, Target, and Self-Evaluate. We identify levels of understanding by using formative assessments. Then we target students for the appropriate intervention when necessary. I also like to add in the caveat that it's not just about intervention. If we have students that are exceeding mastery, they're doing really well, then we're not just going to ignore them. We're going to push them, right? So not only are we looking for students who are potentially not doing very well, we also are identifying those who are doing really well so that we can push them beyond the basic content and enrich their opportunities. And the third component of the ITS model is, of course, self-evaluate teaching and learning. This is very, very important that we as educators constantly self-evaluate our own teaching practices, our own teaching strategies to make sure that what we're doing is working for our students. So, for example, in this particular slide deck you have right here, this would be a great opportunity for me to self-evaluate what I'm doing as an educator and why I'm not reaching my students in this particular standard. And in this particular case for Freeman, I'm identifying a particular student who's weak across the board, not just in one particular standard, but across the board. So that lets me know that I need to do some targeted interventions specific to him. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to pop out of the slide deck and go straight into Master Connect itself. And we're going to do a quick overview of what it looks like. And then we're going to do a demo and then look at the trackers and explain all how that works and then get into the assessments. Okay, so let me pop over here. Okay, so for those of you who have not yet logged into Master Connect before today, or maybe you have, this is what it looks like when you log in. So this is the home dashboard screen. Some of you may have information in your news feed now. If you have never used it before, this will be completely blank. So that is totally fine. If there's nothing there, don't worry, it will be. So the news feed is a record of everything that you do, kind of like your Facebook timeline. So when you log in, you will see that there's a green banner across the top and there are 6 tabs. So if you are a classroom teacher or a coach and you do not have admin rights into Master Connect at the district level, you will not see this admin tab. So do not worry that that's not something that you typically will see if you're a classroom teacher. But you will have the remainder of these tabs. They're always here and they do not change. They don't move. So these are the home buttons for each of these categories. So for maps, trackers, assessments, pins, and community. You know where you are at any given time because of the shading that we use for the buttons. So for example, I'm on the home page on dashboard, and you can tell that because it's a highlighted dark green, and this particular sub-tab is underlined green. So that lets you know where you are. So if I were to click on, for example, assessments, it would change that assessments to a dark green, and I would know where I am based on that. So that's one of the visual cues we like to use in Master Connect to help you navigate. There are plenty of others that I will point out. So as you scroll down, you will notice that there is, of course, I have a long record of my newsfeed because this is what I do for a living. We have quick links to our trackers right here, and we have quick links to assessments. These are the most recent trackers and assessments that you've created. They're just little quick links for it so that you can access it straight from your homepage. On the left-hand side, where your profile picture will be, if you have not already included one, we have our info button, our info section. So right here, this describes what your role is, what grades you teach, school, district, and state. It is important that information is in fact filled out correctly. Master Connect does pull that information whenever you're doing searches for assessments and other aspects of it to kind of make it a little easier for you. And also, if you're using benchmarks at some point in the future, I think that's something you guys may be doing. It is very important that anytime that something reports are generated by the administration or benchmarks or anything else like that, that information is in fact correct, because that is how the information is sent out to you, is based on what your role info is set up as. So if you have the thing incorrectly coded saying you teach a different grade level, you may not receive something that you're supposed to. So it's always a good idea to make sure that's correct. And actually, we're going to do that right now. So if you're following along and you want to validate to make sure your information is correct, what I want us to do is I want us to go to the edit profile link right here underneath where your profile picture should be. So there's an edit profile button. It's a link right here. We click that button, and it's going to take you to a screen that when you activated your masterconnect.com account, you notice that is very common. Okay. So you will notice that this is very familiar to you when you activate it. you want to make sure that the roles, grades, and subject areas are in fact checked the way they should be. You can, of course, change these at any time you want, because I know sometimes we change grade levels, change content areas. It's totally normal. But you want to make sure these are in fact checked, and of course hit the orange Action Save Changes button. The Save Changes buttons are always orange. Anything that does any action at all in Mastery Connect is orange. So if you see a link that is orange or a button that is orange, it affects a change into the system. Mastery Connect does not automatically save anything except student answers when they're taking an assessment. Everything else has to be actively saved by yourself. So always keep that in mind. When you see an orange button, that is letting you know that you're going to add something, you're going to delete something, make a save change, share something out, push something out, deliver an assessment. So always be aware of where the orange buttons are and what they're doing. Also, you will notice that in the right-hand section here, there's a need help. Right. So what we do in Master Connect, for the vast majority of the areas that you can navigate in, there are going to be help articles. And those help articles are located right here. So we have a white circle with a white question mark, and that is the helpful resources section. Okay, and there are two helpful resources, the Help Center and the Online PD. This is always going to be here with you no matter where you go. But we also bring those articles out to you when you're navigating around. The most relevant help articles will populate for you. So for example, if I was in assessments or if I was in my trackers and I was creating something or editing something, you're going to have some little help articles here that are related to that particular area of Master Connect. So when you click on the Helpful Resources button, you have two options, the Help Center and Online PD. When you click the Help Center, it opens it up in a new tab, and this is where all of the help articles related to anything you want to know how to do in Master Connect are located. They're broken into 6 categories. You can do a general search if you wanted to. For example, if I wanted to know what teams were, I could simply type teams, and it's going to pull up all the articles that are related to something called teams. And when you click on the link to it, you will see the step-by-step instructions required in order to do that particular item or action. The help articles are as simplistic as how do you change your password to creating the most advanced technology-enhanced item bank questions that we have inside of Master Connect. And they're step-by-step. It gives you all the information you need to tell you how to do what it is. And there are screenshots with, of course, highlights in any other directions that you may need. So anything that you need to know how to do in Master Connect, you can find out how to do it in the Help Center. The other option, of course, is the Online PD videos. I recommend that all teachers and staff watch all of the first 3 courses. That would be the Introduction, Intermediate, and Advanced. The Introduction, Intermediate will kind of go back over some of the things we're going to talk about today. Some of it we don't cover, especially curriculum maps. That's not something we're going to talk about today at all. But when you click on each one of these sections, these courses here, you will notice that they're broken down into smaller chunks. So the videos on average are about 2.5 minutes long. Some of them are much shorter than that. But they give you an idea of a quick video overview of how to do the various things it's talking about: navigation, community assessments, delivering assessments, that sort of thing. But they are done by one of us, the LSAs, and they're recorded, and they take about an hour and 15 minutes to do all 3 courses. But again, I highly recommend that you do this at some point. It does give you a course complete whenever you're done for each one of those, so it's a good way to know where you are and your overall understanding of Master Connect. It's a good reinforcer. So also, the rest of these, what you will notice is that when you click on any one of these green tabs, there's always going to be some some sub-tabs, gray sub-tabs, like in this case, profile, password, school, email notifications, etc. That's always the way that the system is set up. So you have your green tabs across the top, and you have the sub-gray tabs beneath that. I'm not going to cover what these are right here. They're very self-explanatory. And if you needed further information on that, we can simply look it up in the Help Center. But I do want to make sure that we all go to cores, if you're following along, to make sure that your cores are set up correctly for Kentucky. So cores and Master Connect are the standards that are being used. So cores are what the standards are for math, science, language arts, social studies, and what other subjects are out there for you. Your school setting should be Kentucky. Mine are set to default Common Core, which is what we use when we do our training. So yours will look different than mine. But if you want to make sure that you are in fact using the correct ones, the easiest thing to do is to do the first option in the drop-down box. Use my school's setting. And in parentheses, it should indicate Kentucky State Standards. But that's always a good thing to make sure that in fact you are using the correct standards, because that is what everything is tracked by. And if you're using the incorrect standards, of course, then the information will not be valid. Once you make sure, of course, these are in fact correct, we want to go ahead and hit save changes. So that way we are ensuring that we are lined up correctly with what we need. So, and if you have any issues at any point in time where your cores are not correct, you can let your Miss Susan know, or you can to notify us that there is something wrong with your core settings. But this is set by the school and the district, so you should never have any issues with these not being correct. But just always make sure that when you start the school year or start the semester, just take a quick peek at this and make sure that it is in fact set up correctly. Okay. So now that we've done that, so we have a quick little overview of what this looks like. I'm going to go ahead and jump into trackers. And let's look at what we have on the tracker screen. Okay, so when you go into the trackers homepage, which is what this is, I know that I'm there because it's dark green, as well as trackers subtab is highlighted green, underlined green. So on this page, we have three things of information. We have our created area, we have our collaborating on area, and our archived area. So when you are in Master Connect, the first thing that you must do is you must create your trackers. Okay, trackers are created by you, the teacher of record. They're not created by the administration. These are created by you. Depending on your school schedule, it could be once a year, or it could be every semester, depending on how your schedule is set up in your building. So trackers are created with two distinct pieces of information. One, they are created using a set of standards and a specific roster of students, right? So in order for you to be able to track student data at the individual standard level, which is what our trackers allow us to do, and that's what Master Connect is designed to do, you need to make sure that you have your standards correctly set, as well as you are aligning a tracker to a specific group of students. So for example, if you taught sixth grade math, like what this example tracker is set up for, you will have, if you have sixth grade math and you teach that class 5 times in a day, then you will have 5 trackers, one for each set of students with the exact same standards if you taught sixth grade math and you didn't have any variation in your standards. If you're early childhood, you would have one for each set of standards that you taught, even if you teach those kids all day long. So if you have a self-contained group of kids, you will have different trackers for the different content areas that you teach them throughout the day. So that is how the trackers are set up. When you look at the overview screen here, the tracker is giving you some information. So here's, of course, the name that I gave it. Below that is the content grade level area that the tracker is being taught on, so sixth grade math. The number of students currently enrolled, the core or the standards that are being used in this tracker, and the section number here. So the section number is the roster number from your student information system. So that information is synchronized with Master Connect, typically around midnight to 1 a.m. every day. So this section number is exactly the same section number that you will see in your grade book. So when we go through the adding a tracker process in a moment, you will notice that I'm able to select that. So it allows you to make sure that if you say this is your third period class, that you are selecting the third period roster, for example. And the very last thing is the curriculum map. So the curriculum map, if you are using a curriculum map, if that's something that you've created, or if you don't know what those are, curriculum maps are just another tool that Master Connect allows you to use to have common assessments and resources. And it's a persistent document. So once you've created it once, it lives on forever until you decide to get rid of it. If you were to create a tracker with a curriculum map in it, it would indicate that to you right here, although that is not something we will be doing today. If you ever need to edit any of this information, simply you can go to the edit link where the tracker is located, and you can make some changes. So if you needed to rename it, redescribe it, you can do that. If you wanted to add collaborators, which I'll talk about those in a moment, you can do that from here. Change the folder color. as well as change the link to the classroom. So if you were to accidentally name this incorrectly, or if you put the wrong section of students linked to it, you can simply fix it by editing it. You don't have to start over, and you can hit update. The only thing that you cannot change from a tracker in the editing aspect of it is what group of standards you're using. Okay, so once you created a tracker with a group of standards, you cannot change that. You have to start over again if you needed to change that. So in our created, these are the ones that I have created myself. This next tab, the collaborating on area, those are ones where I am working with another teacher. So they have their tracker they've created, and they've added me as a collaborator, meaning I'm a co-owner. So that means I can go in there, I can see their information, I can see the students' information, I can see the assessments, I can deliver assessments, I can add assessments, I can remove assessments, I can view the reports. I have co-ownership of that tracker with them. It is a very, very common practice to do that with EL teachers and SPED teachers or coaches, because that way they can see the students that they were responsible for in the trackers without having to create their own trackers, because they won't be able to see a lot of the information that you gather as a gen ed teacher. So it is a very common practice for collaborators to be, like I said, EL, SPED, or coaches in your content areas.
Hey, Steven.
Yes.
We had a question from Tara in the chat.
Sure.
Reading and math have an unpacked version and a non-unpacked version. Which should teachers use?
Right. Susan, I believe we're using the unpacked standards, right, for Kentucky? I don't know if she's on here or not, but I'm pretty sure because I've done a lot of trainings with you guys, and I'm pretty sure, let me double check. I believe it is the unpacked standards for Kentucky. Let me pull up Kentucky Jefferson. But to give you, while I'm looking up the answer to that, just to so you know what the differences are between packed and unpacked standards, typically in most districts and states, the unpacked standards have a lot of sub-standards and indicators associated with them. So they're more broken down. There's more standards because there's sub-standards and sub-indicators, versus the packed do not. It's just the actual mainline standard. That would be the difference between those two. Let me pull up the standards document and see if I can get it to work for me. Okay, nope. It is the unpacked standards is the information that I have. So if you have the option between packed and unpacked, it looks like, unless Susan's changed that or has different information now, it is still the unpacked standards.
Awesome. Thank you.
Not a problem. Okay. Yeah, I'm glad you asked, because you are one of the few districts that I have that does have the option between the two. So thank you for pointing that out. So when you're on the main tracker page here, let's go back to the actual main tracker page. You will notice that there are two other sub-tabs here. There's students and progress reports. Students, when you click on that, gives you a list of all students that you currently have in your trackers. So for me, it's going to be passed because technically the school year's over for the training tracker that I use, but I just haven't changed it yet. But here's a list of all the students that I have. So if they have a student login for Mastery Connect, this is where you could print their username and password, send their activation email, or delete them. I don't ever recommend you do that, of course, but you do have that option. Under the progress reports area, there will be nothing there unless your administration or either at the district or school level generates a progress report. There will be nothing there. I have a ton of those because I do training on progress reports and reporting, so I have a lot of them. But there will be nothing here for you at all. So that's why if you click on that, don't worry. But if that is something that is done, you will receive an email from the system saying progress report now available. So that's what those are. They're very detailed progress reports that go much more into detail than the standard reports that we have available. So let's go ahead now. We've kind of just done an overview of what all this looks like. Let's go ahead and talk about how we add these trackers. So we have the information listed here. Let's go ahead and add one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit the orange action item button over here in the top right hand corner called Add Tracker. So when I hit that button, the new tracker creation screen comes up. All right. So again, need help is right there. So if you get to this point in time, a later date, and you're not quite sure, the need help is right here, the create a tracker link. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and walk through creating the tracker. So the first thing you must do, of course, is select the subject area. Notice that the core automatically populates based on what you set in your profile. And it should be set for you, but it's what was set. So I'll go ahead and tell it 6th grade. I'll give it a name. I'll select the folder color that kind of stands out. And here is the step that is the most important. So there are 4 ways that we can add students to our trackers. Because you are using a synchronization with your gradebooks and rosters, we are always going to select the last one, import students from SIS. So it typically defaults to the very first option, add students individually. So you will select the 4th one, and you will notice that this import from SIS row comes up. And then there will be a list of all the rosters you have available in your gradebook. You may not be teaching them right now, but they're going to be listed there. So at this point, now that I've named this description as Watch 3rd period, I'm going to look to see, in my case, I only have one option available to me, but that this is in fact my 3rd period roster. And once I have verified that, I'm looking at the data and making sure that they are in fact the same thing, then I hit Create Tracker. And when we do that, now there's going to be some erroneous data in here because these students are in my other tracker. But once we do that, you will get your student list here on the left-hand side, and you will see your standards across the top. There will be nothing else here. So if you would, please, if you have not created trackers at all yet, please go ahead and make one, at least one, so we can make sure that you are good to go on that aspect of this, because it's very important that your trackers are created correctly. This is where all of the student assessments and student data live. So we need to make sure we do, in fact, have those set up correctly. So again, we go to the orange add action, add tracker option. And then we fill out the relevant information. The most important step being that we are, in fact, selecting the correct roster based on the name we give it. And again, if you name it incorrectly, or if you click the wrong roster, the simplest thing to do is just edit the tracker once you created it, and we can fix either one of those. So I'll give you a couple of minutes to make sure you have a tracker created, and for any issues or questions that may arise, so we can go ahead and get those addressed.
I haven't seen any more, Stephen.
Okay, awesome. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and jump on into the rest of this. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to ask us, or make sure, I wanna make sure everybody is on the same page and doesn't have any issues whatsoever. Okay, so now let's jump into a tracker. So before we do that, though, I want to make sure that I want to reiterate this one point. When you think about what trackers are doing, they are tracking, right? So we're tracking our students individually by standard. So when you saw that slide deck earlier with those colors on it, that is exactly what we're doing here. We are tracking our students individually. All of our data lives inside of our trackers, and it is forever until the system is deleted. So you can have data going back years. So that's one good thing about this. We do have the ability to compare student data and information from year to year, not just currently the ones that you're teaching. So when I click on the name of that tracker, I am taken to the tracker overview screen. We call it the overview because I'm kind of at the cloud level of my tracker, right? I'm not looking at anything individually. I'm not looking at an individual standard, an individual student per se. I'm looking at the big picture screen right here. So inside of this tracker, we have, of course, our student list on the left-hand side with their student ID numbers. These are the ID numbers that are in the gradebook, so they're going to be identical. We have our standards across the top. And we have several other areas that I'm going to point out to you. So on the left-hand side here, we have what's called the tracker list. This is a breadcrumb list menu item that is persistent. It always stays here No matter where you are inside the tracker, whether you're looking at an individual student or you're looking inside an individual standard, this particular tracker list breadcrumb menu is always going to be there. And that is for navigation. It makes it a lot easier to navigate inside the system when you have the tracker list there, because watch what happens when I click on this. So it's telling me one thing. This is the name of my tracker that I'm inside of. When I click this, it refreshes the page in this case, right? So no matter where I am inside my tracker, if I click this link, this name, it's going to take me back to this page. So that is one of the navigation areas I like to point out. It makes it easy to get around. We have an orange action menu. So all of these, since this is an orange menu, all of these do something, like adding assessments, viewing the standards that are included into my tracker. In this case, the Common Core. I can add standards. So for example, if you are a teacher who may have additional standards that you need. So if you're teaching an accelerated class, for example, if you're teaching 7th grade pre-algebra, but your students maybe get to the first 4 standards in Algebra 1 in 8th grade. Then, or if you needed to add additional standards back to your tracker. So this is where you would do it. You go to add standard. So when you hit add standard, you can select from existing ones. So like in this case, the Kentucky standards. And you can simply just say, okay, well, I want to add 7th grade standards because I'm going to be teaching a couple of those. And then you hit add, and it will add them to your tracker. So it is possible to have multiple grade levels of standards in a tracker if that's something that you needed to do. But by default, it only allows you to do one group at a time, and you add those individually. You can also add customized standards by creating your own. By that same method, instead of select from existing, you would simply hit create new standard. If for some reason you do not see the standards that you need, you would need to let us know at Master Connect so that we can add them for you. The rest of these options here, I'm not going to really spend a whole lot of time talking about. You can read more about those in the Help Center. They do not apply in most cases unless you're using the student and parent portal. So I typically do not talk about what they are for time's sake. One area that I will bring up is the add collaborator. So I mentioned what that was earlier, where you're a co-owner with another teacher. So if you are a general education teacher and you wish to add a teacher as a collaborator to your tracker, so it may be that an EL, SPED, coach, another content area person like yourself, if you want to add someone to your tracker as a collaborator, you go to the orange action menu on your tracker. So I'm in the tracker overview screen, and we would simply go to add collaborators. You simply search their name and hit update. They will receive an email and a notification saying that you have been added as a collaborator to such and such's class, and it will show up in their collaborating on in trackers. So when they get that notification in an email, the collaborating on, they would click on this, and then they would have the tracker name. So it would be your name since they're collaborating with you. And then they can simply go to it just like they would their own trackers. So they would click on the tracker just like this, and they're going to see the exact same thing that you do. And they can add, remove, delete, alter, or anything. So just always keep that in mind that they are in fact co-owners of your tracker. And it's also important if you're collaborating with someone that you remember that you have the same rights and privileges that they do. Okay, so let's look at what else is going on in our tracker. So of course we have our student list right here. We have our list of standards, and then the box above each set of standards here, we have a box with a little piece of paper and a number. That is indicating the number of assessments currently in that standard. So for example, I have 8 assessments currently being not utilized per se, but they're in here. There are 8 assessments associated with this standard. There are 3 assessments associated with this standard, and so on and so forth. And there's 1 assessment for this particular group of standards. So that's what that number is indicating right here above the standard. When we see an M, it stands for multi-standard assessment. So every assessment in Master Connect has a home. If it is a single standard assessment, it resides inside the standard itself. So for example, that's why there's an 8 right here. There are 8 single standard assessments, or actually there's 6 single standard assessments inside of this one. And they're all living inside of here. But multi-standard assessments have nowhere to live because they belong to more than one standard. So we put them out here on the main tracker overview screen. Because there's more than one standard it's worth of information on this assessment, it sits out here. So another thing about multi-standard assessments is not only do they reside out here on the tracker overview to find them, they always show up. So they're placed on the tracker to the right of the last standard used on that assessment. So for example, RPA 1 and RPA 2 are the two standards that are on this mid-unit multi-standard assessment. I know that because it is showing up to the right of RPA 2. That is the last standard that was used. This Unit 1 assessment has 3 standards on it. I know that because it is showing up to the right of RPA 3. Same thing if you're using benchmarks. If you ever see benchmarks at some point in the future, they are the same thing. Benchmarks show up to the right of the last set of standard used on that particular assessment. Oops. So that's the reason why the tracker is organized the way that it is. So again, we have our individual standards. We have a number indicating the number of assessments associated to that standard, and multi-standard assessments live out here on our tracker overview screen. So if I were to click the name of this multi-standard assessment, this mid-unit formative, it will break it down by individual standard. So here are the 2 standards that were on it, just like I said, RPA 1 and RPA 2. And here is the breakdown of the mastery levels in a visual sense. This is not a report. It's just the visual look at what the breakdown was. And you can see the green, the red, and the yellow color coding indicating the mastery. If I click see the tracker list is with me, it followed me. If I click the name of my tracker, it will take me back to the tracker overview screen. Okay, so let's go ahead and jump into what assessments look like and the data that we collect from them. So what I'm going to do is when you hover, and I want to point this out real quick before I go any further, you will notice that as you hover over anything here, that MasterConnect automatically opens up drop-down boxes and things for you. When you hover over a standard, you get several options here. Assess, view standard, notes, resource pin, set as a power standard. There's a calendar. You can add or create a substandard to this particular standard if you want to. And export mastery, that allows you to export your scores to your gradebook. And there's a very specific process that you use if that is something you wanted to do. But when I click assess, that is what takes me into the individual standard itself. So now I'm looking at all of the assessments that make up RPA 1's mastery level. So again, to get to that point, all I did was hover my mouse over the name of the standard and hit assess. You can also just click the name of the standard. Without clicking the assess button, I can simply just click this, the actual name of the standard, and it will take me to the exact same location. There are almost always 2, sometimes 3 ways to do the exact same thing in MasterConnect. It's entirely based on what you, the user, want to do. So I know that I am inside the individual standard 2 different ways. One, the tracker list. Notice how it's not just Watts 3rd period 6th grade math anymore. It's saying that in an additional 6 RPA 1. It is letting me know that I am inside the individual standard. It is also listed right here above the student roster list. It is indicating which individual standard you're currently looking at. I can, if I hover over the little down arrow, where the standard is listed in the tracker list, it allows you to quick link navigate to the other individual standards. So for example, if I wanted to see the next standard over, if I click that, it will take me to that screen. All right. So we have a bit of information. Just like we did on the tracker overview screen, the layout is very similar. Instead of having the names of our standards, we have the names of our assessments. So when you're looking at this, you have this assess button right here, and you have a raw score, and you have a multi-standard. That is telling you the type of assessment. So if it says assess, and you're inside an individual standard, or if it's raw score, these are single standard assessments. So that assessment, this particular one, like quick check on ratios or my RPA quiz 2, these are aligned to one standard and one standard only. This multi-standard, remember there were 2 of those out there. I had a mid-unit formative and I had a unit 1 assessment. This is pulling in this particular standard's mastery content levels, mastery cut scores for that assessment. So remember the actual assessment is living out here. The multi-standard assessment is actually living out here on the tracker overview screen, right? But remember how trackers operate. Trackers operate by pulling information and collecting information at the individual standard level. That's how we know where our students' masteries are. So we have our multi-standard assessment living out here, but the information is stored inside the individual standard that, in this case, 2 standards that make up that particular assessment. So this is the information for RPA 1 off of this mid-unit formative, and this is the information for RPA 1 from the unit 1 assessment, multi-standard assessment. So when you click on the individual standard level, you're going to see that breakdown for everything, for only that standard. And here are all 8 assessments that make up RPA 1. So now that we have this overview really done here, I want to actually show you what some of the assessments look like when students are taking them. So give me 1 second to delete this so I can show you. So when we want to deliver an assessment, we click the Assess button. So let's say, for example, Gretchen needs to take the assessment. She's the only student who did not take it, so I need her to take it. So I click the Assess button right here, and the student will go to student.masterconnect.com, and they will type in the test ID number, which is on the test ID screen. So when we click the Assess button, this box pops up, and this is the test ID number. You notice right here, it expires in 4 days. If this says expired, then you would just simply hit Generate New Test ID. That is how the information is passed back into the tracker, is that test ID number. So they would enter their test ID number and their student ID number. And this is what the student sees. So this is an example of a teacher uploaded assessment, one they already had. It's a simple Word document, or in this case, it's a PDF now. So Gretchen sees this from her point of view. She has 5 questions. Here are the answers over here. Notice it has the test ID number in the top right-hand corner. As soon as I start answering the questions, it starts to save. So notice how it just saved. So it saves the student's answers in case there's any internet disruption or something like that. And once she's done, she hits finished. It'll give her the option to say yes or no. And you're finished. And you heard that beep noise. That is you being told by the system that the score has been entered. She did not get any of them correct. So she got a 0 out of 5. So now that that Gretchen has taken this, I want to actually look at the assessment itself. So again, just like on the standard screen, on the overview screen, when you hover over the name of a standard, you have some options. When you hover over the name of the assessment, you have a drop-down list of various things that you can do. The most quick and efficient way to access any of this information is simply to click the name of the assessment itself. So you can go to the individual links, but the easiest way to do it is simply to click the name of the assessment, and it will pop up the magic box. So this particular box gives you all of the information breakdown that you possibly could need regarding that individual assessment. So not only does it tell you who created it, it also tells you the assessment's info. So what type of alignment is it? Is it single standard or multi-standard? Well, remember when I told you when you're inside an individual standard like we are, and there's an assess button above it, it's single standard. And that is proven, again, right here, alignment type, single standard. And it also gives you the question types and when it was created. It gives you the scoring breakdown. So the total score possible was 5 points. To get mastery, they had to get 4 out of 5. And to get near mastery, they had to get 3 out of 5. Anything below that would be considered remediation. it gives you the answer key as well on this initial info page. The next option over actually pulls up the assessment itself. So if this was an item bank based assessment or a teacher uploaded assessment, either case, it is going to show you what the assessment looks like. Since this is one that we uploaded ourselves, the answer key is available to be changed. So if you miskeyed it for some reason, or you need to change the answer for that particular assessment, you in the tracker, so keep in mind, if you make a change here, it is going to rescore and recalculate their answers and their mastery levels for that group of students, not in all your trackers, just that particular assessment inside this standard for this group of students. If you were to go into your assessments and change the answer key, it is not going to change the answers that were used in this particular case. You would have to change them here too. And we'll talk more about that when we talk about assessments in a minute. So if you needed to hit, make sure you hit save, but don't do that unless you intend to make a change. The next one over is reports. So our students have now taken it. All 10 students have taken the particular assessment, in this case, the RPA quiz 2. So now I have my reports. Reports are generated the instant that a student takes the assessment. So I don't have to wait for all 10 students to take it. But now that they have, it makes a little bit more sense for me to kind of wait and see what's up. So in this case, we have 4 reports by default available to us on our assessment. The first one being item analysis. So we're familiar with what these are. This is a question breakdown. So it tells you what they answered and the breakdown for each question. And underneath that question, it also indicates the standard used on that particular question. So every question is aligned to a standard, and every standard is aligned to a question in Master Connect assessments. So you can see here on the chart here, there's a breakdown. I have 10 total students in my class. So there is 6 students that answered correctly, D, and 4 that did not. If I click on the bar chart itself, it will actually break down who the students were. So you can think about the power that it gives you, because now you know individually, without having to do anything other than they've taken the assessment. Here's the initial report, the very first report that we can see, the item analysis. Now I know which of my students answered which answer choices, not just that they got it incorrect. I can also look at different view options. So right now, the default is always the tracker you're currently looking at. I'm working in my 3rd period, 6th grade math tracker. You can look at all of your trackers cumulatively. So if you have more than one with the same standard and same assessment, you can look at all of them cumulatively. You can also look at all teachers in your school. So when you see a view option, teachers in my school, that only works if the teachers are, of course, one, using the same standards that you are, and they're using the exact same assessment that you are. If they are, then you will be able to see what their students' breakdown is in addition to yours. So, for example, there are other contractors like myself who use this particular set of standards and this assessment. So when I hit teachers in my school, I can see all of their information tied in with my students. And if you have a team, which is a feature in the community section that we will briefly go over towards the end, you can also do it that way. Teams are exactly what you probably think they are. They are basically you and another couple of teachers got together, created a team in Master Connect, and you can share resources, share assessments. And in this case, it allows you to see reports as well on the assessments. So the next report available to us is the Student Mastery Report. This allows you to see a comparison between the mastery levels of all students that you currently have in your tracker versus those with scores. So in this case, it's going to be identical, right? Because all 10 of my students have taken this assessment. So these 2 charts will be the same. Again, you have the same view options. You can also select the demographic break. Tracker comparison is exactly what it sounds like. This is where you are able to compare your other trackers side by side. And you can choose school year. So for example, if you only want to look at your currently active trackers, the ones you're using this school year, you can look at the ones that have been archived from previous years, or you can do both. You can do active and archived. And it will list all of your active and archive trackers that have these standards and this assessment in it, and it will give you a comparison. And of course, you can also do different school years. The last report available, again, only works when you are using the same exact assessment as another teacher in the same set of standards. So this is a teacher is in my school comparison report where you are able to pull look what your students' mastery levels are compared to other teachers' students' mastery levels. And again, you can also filter it by school year, active and archived, and also you have the team option as well. So teachers in my school in team option. So again, this report will not generate. There actually won't be anything on it if there isn't anyone to compare it to. The most commonly used report is going to be the item analysis report. I think we can all understand why. It is very powerful. And just again, notice that this is a single standard assessment. So every question does have a standard associated to it, but they're all the same. If this was a multi-standard assessment, which I will show you that in a moment, you would notice that the standards would be different for each question. The next area in the magic box is the bubble sheet. So bubble sheets are scantrons that you can print off and allow your students to take the assessment that way instead of digitally. If they are taking it digitally, you can also have them do it this way. I always recommend that you leave these three options checked. That is the pre-fill with student IDs, the assessment's name, as well as your name. This will allow you to not have to worry about the students remembering their ID number, because that can sometimes be a bit tedious for them. I know in my school system, for example, our ID numbers were 12 numbers long. So it was not ideal for them to have to remember that. So I will show you what one looks like if you wanted to use it. These are what the bubble sheets look like. So for example, here it is. We have the name, the student name, and their ID number already filled in. They would simply just fill in the answers. And then there's something called the grade cam, which is right here. I would come to the name of the assessment and hit scan scores. I click that box. And the grade camera will be turned to ready. And a green dot will show up. It won't work because I have a Google Classroom on. A green dot will highlight up here next to the name of the assessment. And that's how you scan the Scantron into the Master Connect. You just hold it in front of your webcam, it makes a beep noise, and you go on to the next one. Once you kind of figure out how to angle the paper, which you'll be doing it here in the grade cam box, where it says it's a black grade cam box right here. Normally it would be showing my webcam, but since I'm on a webcam, it won't let me do that. But you can typically do about 25 to 30 Scantron sheets in about 1 to 2 minutes. It doesn't take very long at all. So, but always keep in mind that you are scanning the correct assessment, because it's not going to know which assessment you're scanning. The only way it knows that is because I told it to scan scores. So if I have, for example, if I have this set of Scantron bubble sheets, and I don't mean to, I could scan the wrong assessment. So you just want to make sure that you're putting the right information in the right column when you're going to scan. I'll turn that off. There we go. The next option in the info box is to print scores. This is a score sheet. So simply all it does is it gives them their mastery level for that assignment, what they answered. And if you wish, you can actually show the correct answer for missed questions. And if it was an open response question, you can hit that box right there and it will allow them to do that. Notes and dates. Date is date given. So the day the very first score was entered into the system, that is what will be shown there. And the last option is how you can change the privacy options for your students' ability to view the assessment, answer key, item analysis, and their student answers if your district and school is using the student portal. If you're not doing the student portal, they won't have access to this anyway. So again, you get all that information. You get the reports, you get the answer key, you get the bubble sheets, the print score options, all of that by simply clicking on the name of the assessment in the standard. And that allows you access to all of that information. All this information is automatically generated. You don't have to do anything. It's just there for you as soon as the first score is entered. Now I'm going to show you, if you wanted to go into a multi-standard, assessment and I'm inside of a single standard, you can simply click the name of this and it will take me to that multi-standard assessment. So here it is. And if I want to pull the reports, just like I did, I would simply go to the orange action menu. So this is a multi-standard assessment. The orange action menu, reports. And it's going to pull up that same box that we're familiar with. It's just a little different way of getting to it. But you'll notice on this item analysis breakdown, the standards are different because this is in fact a multi-standard assessment. And the only other difference here is that the reports look different if you are doing a teacher comparison, because now it's breaking it down by individual standard instead of it being cumulative. And again, I click the name of my tracker in the tracker list, and it will take me back to the tracker overview screen. So are there any questions regarding any of that? I'm trying to make sure I cover everything, but I also don't want to take too long because I know we need to get to the assessments aspect of this.
No, there were no questions.
Awesome. Okay. So the last report that I will show you before we jump into the assessments piece is the individual student progress report. So over here on the left-hand side, you will notice that as I move my mouse over, it becomes a hyperlink and there's an edit option. So the first thing I'm going to show you is how you turn on text-to-speech for a student. So when I hit edit, the edit student box comes up. And this will allow me to check the accommodations area right here, allow text-to-speech for compatible assessments. Remember, this only works for item bank assessments. It does not work for anything else that you may upload yourself. This option must be turned on in every tracker that student is residing in. And it must be turned on by the teacher. It's not a site-wide option. So if a student requires that accommodation, you, the teacher, would have to go in there, put your mouse over their name, hit the edit button, and simply check the box, hit save. And now every assessment that's item-based, they will have the option to turn on or turn off the ability to text-to-speech themselves. But again, this has to happen. So if a student has that accommodation, every teacher would have to do this for every tracker that student appears in. So, but when I hover over the name and I click that person's name, so if I click Credgen Bennett's name, it's going to pull up her individual student report. So what you see here, of course, these are all the standards. Here's the current mastery level for each standard according to the assessments. And over here on the right-hand side, we have a quick bar graph, circle graph rather, that is indicating 71% in mastery. So of the total number of standards assessed, of which I've done 24% of them, right here, she is 71% in mastery. It's pretty good, not bad. But I can also do more than just look at this. If I hit expand all right here, not only does it break the standard out all the way, so I have the full standard, but here are all of the assessments that make up that score, that mastery score. I can click on the name of the assessment and it will pull up the assessment itself. This was a rubric that we used. It'll break down the item analysis for the class and also what the students' answers were. So you can view that information in the student report. This can be printed off if you want. These are very useful when you're doing RTIs. And we did those a lot in my district when we did RTI. We usually printed these off as part of the permanent record. Okay. So those are the 5 basic reports that you get as a classroom teacher when you're using that. You have 4 that are based on the assessment itself and 1 that is an individual student report. And again, progress reports are generated by the school and administration, so that is not something that you would see unless that has been done for you. So let's go ahead and shift gears away from trackers and how we navigate them and what they look like to talking about assessments. So there are 4 ways that we add assessments to Master Connect. The first one is item-based. I'm sure some of you may be familiar with that if you've been toying around in the system already. The second way that we do that is uploading one, like the example I showed you earlier, the demo that I showed you where the student took the assessment, that is a teacher uploaded. We just have a file that we like, we upload it to the system, and we deliver it to our students. We can also search the community. So when I click on the assessments homepage, it defaults us to all. What I'm looking at here, these are all of the assessments shared on the community. So when you create an assessment, when you upload one that you have the option to share it with everybody else in the United States on Master Connect. So that's what we're looking at here. That's what all of this is. And there are 599,000 of them. So that is the third way that we can add an assessment, because you can use one of theirs. And the fourth way that we add an assessment to the system is by cloning one that already exists. So cloning is copying. You can take any one of these assessments, clone them, make changes to it, and then add it to your trackers. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to walk through the very first method of adding an assessment, which is item banks. So I am on my assessments homepage. I hit add assessment. This assessment type will not be there for you. It just is for me because I am a district administrator for Master Connect, so it shows that up, but you will not have that option, so we're going to ignore that. So the first thing first, you have to select the subject area. So I'm going to say it's math. Notice the core populates for me. I need to select the class period. I'll say 6th grade. Now we need to decide standards. So since we are doing an item bank assessment, these are the Certic and Navigate item bank questions that are already aligned to the Kentucky standards and to state testing. So it is very important when you're doing an item-based assessment that you know whether it's going to be single standard or multi-standard. If you select multi-standard, you have to make sure that there are in fact multiple standards on that assessment. Otherwise, it will not allow you to create it. Same thing if it's single standard. If I select a single standard for that, it will not allow me to add questions from any other standard except that one. So it's very important that when you're creating an item-based question, or assessment rather, that you do in fact know that going in. So I'm gonna say it's multi-standard for the training purposes. I'm gonna give it a name. Titles must be unique. Assessments in Master Connect cannot have the same exact title. So if you're going to reuse an assessment, for example, let's say you gave this assessment to your students that did not do very well, and you want them to take it again, you would simply need to make a copy of it, clone it, which I will show you how to do in a moment, and just add the word reteach or retake at the end of it. You can use the exact same file in the assessment itself, but the name can't be the same. So we'll give a little description. And then the most important piece. So one thing I want you to notice is that as we go through all 4 ways of adding assessments, this process at the beginning never changes. So how we, with the subject area, the core of the class, and the standards, and the title and the description, this is the same exact process no matter how we're adding an assessment to the system. The thing that changes is where we get the assessment from. So we could get it document-based, in other words, uploading a file. There could be not a document at all. Maybe we're just using a bubble sheet. But in our case, we're creating an item-based assessment. And so you would select Certic and Navigate. You won't see the rest of these, but you'll select Certic and Navigate. And notice what happens. We get the item filter screen comes up. No, but the privacy right here has defaulted to private to my district. Okay, item bank questions cannot be shared to the community. They have to remain private to your district because your district pays for that. And of course, you have the option to make it just private to you if you want, which I have to for training. So in the item filters, we have our standard selection. So here are all the standards. I can select which ones I want. In parenthesis, it is indicating the number of items available to that standard. You can then filter it further by item type. So these are the question types. So for example, short text, match list, choice matrix. Some questions, some standards have different enhanced items, some do not. It just depends on the standard itself. There are roughly around 45 to 48 types of questions that can be used. You can also filter it further by doc level. Over here on the right-hand side, you have the option to look only for ones that you can print off. So if you needed to hard copy print off an item-based assessment, you can check this box right here, and it will only show you the ones that can in fact be printed. just keep in mind, advanced technology enhanced item questions cannot be printed because they're technology enhanced. We also have the option to filter between English and Spanish. So if you have assessments that need to be done in Spanish, you can select that and I'll filter out the ones that are only in Spanish. Same thing for English. So once we've made our filters, we've decided what we want, then you come down here, here are the results. If I click on the blue link right here, it will actually pull the item up for me. So the first thing that you see, of course, is this is the student's view. So as the teacher, you are allowed to manipulate and interact with the question itself. So that way you can know how they're going to be answering it. And then, of course, it shows you at the bottom what the correct answers are. So in this case, I, as the teacher, can determine, I can look at it and see how they would answer this question. If I like it, I can go ahead and straight away add that item. You can also skip to the next item. There's a little arrow right here. If I click that box or that button, it will allow me to go to the next question and see this is a closed choice matrix type question where the student interacts with it by dragging the answer into the box. And you have the option, again, like I said, you get to manipulate with it. That way you can understand how they're going to answer it. And again, if you hit add item, like if I add this item right now, it will automatically pull up the next question. You can add that one, and so on and so forth. So here's an example of a match list. And I can add that one as well. Okay. You can also add them straight away by hitting the green check, the green plus sign right here. So if I want to add that one, or maybe this one. You can also add a random quantity. This is very useful if you're doing like a pre-assessment and you don't necessarily care which types of questions are on there. You just want to do a pre-assessment of a standard. You can simply just type in 5 and then hit the plus button. It'll take a second and then it'll add 5 random questions out of that standard. You can also randomize the items in the assessment to make sure that there are no, if for some reason you want them to be randomized, you want them to not be in a particular order. So the last thing that we have to do, in order to create the assessment, we filled out the subject, the core, the class, the standard. We've said it was multi-standard. We've given it a unique title and a description. We've selected our source, which in this case is going to be item-based because that's what we're creating, an item-based assessment. We selected Certica. Now we have the last most important piece, the actual mastery cut scores. We have to tell the system what the score is going to be. Notice here that I chose 2 standards on my multi-standard assessment, and they are broken down right here. The scoring is broken down. So there are 10 points possible for the first standard, and there are 5 points possible for the second, for a total of 15 points on this multi-standard assessment. I need to let the system know what is mastery and what is near mastery. So I'm just going to pick something that I typically would have used. 80% ballpark is typically what I usually recommend. And then create assessment. So once we have all this filled out, we hit create assessment. And when we are done creating an assessment, whether it's one that we've uploaded or it's item-based, you are taken to that assessments page. So here's what it looks like when we're done. Here's what the assessment looks like. These are all the items. I can make an edit if I needed to. I can delete it if I want to. I can even bookmark it to where it shows up in a quick link for me to find later. But it gives you the breakdown of the scoring as well as who created it. In this case, it's me. And it also aligns the questions to the standards for you. It gives you that right there, so you know. If you like it and you are ready to add it to your tracker, you can do that from this screen. You can hit add to tracker. And then you can simply select whichever trackers that it associates with. Now, keep in mind, assessments must have the same standards as the tracker you're going to add it to. If they do not, then you will get an error that says standards misalignment, and it will not allow you to do so. It basically saying you don't have any trackers that have those standards on it. So always keep in mind that you have, in fact, created your trackers. If this is the summertime, you won't be able to add an assessment, to your trackers until you have created them. And that whatever you're doing, that your standards, that you have a tracker with those standards in it. So once you've created an assessment, it shows up in your created area. So for example, here it is, Demo KY Jefferson. So let's talk about these two areas right here real quickly before I move on to the rest of the ways that we add assessments. You notice how I have you using right here, it's 33, and I have 42 created. So using, it is possible to use an assessment in your tracker. So if I click on that using column right here, it is going to give me a list of every single assessment that is currently being used in my trackers, in my created, not my archived. So it is possible to use an assessment that you did not create. So that's why we have a difference between using and created. You may have gotten it from the community or somebody shared it with you and you're using it, but you did not do anything to create it. And of course, you can sort how this works. The created being most recent, most viewed, highest rated. Typically by default, people leave it at most recent, the sort by option here. Bookmarked is exactly what it sounds like. You've bookmarked it like you did a website and you just want to come back to it later. Your item bank area right here will be blank. Item bank is for ones that you yourself have created. It is possible to create item bank questions like the one Certica has. It is a possibility to do that. Your administration would have to release that right and privilege to you, and that's something that some districts do. But if you are given that access right to create your own item bank questions, that's where they would show up. And for you, if you click on that, it would be blank. For me, of course, there are item banks questions that I have created. So don't worry about that. If you were to click that at some point, say, hey, it's Mr. Watson's blank. I don't have the item bank. No, you have the item bank. These are just custom item bank questions that you can create. All right. So that was adding an item bank assessment. Let's talk about adding one that you already have. So we're going to talk about teacher uploaded assessments. So it's the same process that we used before. We'll fill out all the information. Except in this case, we're going to do it document based, right? So we're going to say upload file. It's just like adding a file to an attachment to an email. You would find out where it is. You can decide the privacy level. And then you would, of course, then indicate the number of questions. So in a teacher uploaded or teacher created situation like this, there are 5 types of questions that can be asked: rubric, bubble sheet, true, false, multi-select, and multiple choice. Notice with the item bank, there are about 47 different types of questions. So there you have more limited options when you do teacher uploaded, just because of the technology involved in making an enhanced item like that available to Word documents and PDFs does not exist yet. I'm sure it will one day. So once you have the number of questions correctly listed out here, then we would go ahead and just fill in the answers. You can change the point value from 1 point to as many as you want. You can change the question type. So if it was multi-select or true, false, rubric. So rubric would be something that you would have to grade yourself in the system. And I will show you how to do that momentarily. So here's the next most important thing. So now that we know what the answers are, we have to align it to the correct standards. So here is where we do that. It is very important that you have the question and the standards as close as possible. So you want to make sure that because this is how the data is stored. Okay. So if this is not done correctly, this is not filled out correctly, then the data feeding back into your tracker is not going to be accurate. So you always want to make sure that when you're doing a teacher upload, or if you're cloning another teacher's assessment from the community and you're changing it to your standards, that you do in fact have the standards aligned as closely and correctly as possible. Once you have that information done, it's the same as it was for the item-based. We have to put our mastery cut scores in there. And then I can hit create assessment. But I've made an error and I want to show you what that looks like. So if you make an error when you're in the process of creating an assessment, you're going to get the red banner across the top and it will not go away until you fix it. You also notice here that the create assessment button is grayed out. It will then highlight to you the area or areas that need to be corrected. And once you've done that, it will then allow you to create the assessment. And again, once you've created it, I'm not going to create another one. Once you've created it, you can find it here in your created, and you can simply add it to your tracker by coming to the thumbnail underneath that add to tracker. Or if you were actually inside of the assessment, if you click on the name of the assessment, it will take you to that assessment's detail page where you can download it, print it off, make a copy, but you can also add it to your tracker that way. You can also add assessments to your trackers another way. You don't have to do it from the assessments page itself. You can actually be in your tracker. So if you're inside your tracker working with it, and you say, oh, I need to add an assessment. Well, we have a handy button right here. And I ignored that earlier because I wanted to talk about assessments first. If you hit add assessment here, it's going to do a little bit of assist for you. So for example, if I wanted to search the community for an assessment that would fit my 6th grade Common Core tracker, if I hit search the community, the system's going to automatically pull my standards and my grade level into the search filter for me and find every assessment out there that is Common Core Math 6th grade. So there are about 12,980 assessments shared on the community that deal with 6th grade math that are Common Core. And if I like one, then I can simply say add to tracker and hit add. So again, I did that by being in my tracker itself. I was actually in my tracker to do that. So if I go back to my tracker and I hit add assessment, it allows you to search the community. It also will filter through your currently created assessments. So if I hit select from my assessments, it's going to do that same filter, but it's going to be created by myself. So these are going to be all of my created assessments that deal with 6th grade Common Core Math. And same process, you can simply then say add if you know which one it is. And lastly, the one advantage of doing an add assessment from your tracker, not only does it make it quicker because it's already filtering out those specifics that you need. If you add an assessment and say create new assessment, it fills in all the information that we filled in first. So it fills in the tracker subject core class. One thing you need to do now is select the standard and the source. So it does expedite a little bit of the work. You don't have to fill all that out. And again, that works only when you're in your tracker and you add an assessment from the tracker itself. So some people prefer to do it that way. Some people do not prefer to do it that way. It's simply up to you how you wish to add assessments to your tracker. You can either do it from your assessments homepage and add them, add to tracker like this, or you can do it by going into your tracker and telling it to do it that way. So again, like I said, there's always two ways to do everything inside of Master Connect. It's entirely user preference on how you want to do that. So are there any questions about adding assessments, creating assessments? Teacher upload and form-based.
Nope, we didn't see any.
Awesome. Alrighty. Are there any general questions at all regarding anything that I've talked about today? I know that the item-based assessments, making sure we went back over that again was kind of an important question, or important area of concern for today's, based on last week's conversation I had with Susan. Is there anything else that y'all particularly want me to focus on?
Not that I know of. We didn't have any questions. So.
Awesome. Well, okay. Let's see. See if I've left anything out. I don't think I have. Let's make sure. Okay. Yeah. Oh, and one thing I do want to point out as well, when you're on your tracker home page, there is this print extra bubble sheets option. If you want a classroom set of bubble sheets, I did this when I taught economics and government. I printed off a master copy for them. It's like 40 questions long, and I laminated it with Sharpies. Not Sharpies, but dry erase markers. And it had their student ID number on there and their name. So they just kept it with them. And that way they could walk into the classroom. There would be an assessment up on the board. They would take it real quickly. They'd walk over to my computer. They would scan it in, then sit back down while I'm doing the attendance, talking to, having individual conversations with students, that sort of thing. That's what this option allows you to do, is to print extra bubble sheets. When you click that button, it won't pop up for me. I do not know why. I need to get them to fix that. But it will pop up a list of your trackers, and it will say which ones do you want to print off. So it allows you to do like a bulk print of bubble sheets, and they're not assigned to an actual assessment. Because remember earlier when I showed you these were tied to that particular assessment. But that allows you to, the print bubble sheets option allows you to print off a generic bubble sheet set for your class, if that's what you wanted to do.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah. Susan just came in the chat and said just let people know they could contact her if they have any questions. And she did mention, and this is true, we will be, this video, I'll be breaking it down. So this, however long this session is, it'll be its own video on our channel. So.
Awesome. Well, I hope you guys have a good rest of your school year. I know you guys have already started. But of course, if you have any questions regarding Mastery and Act, feel free to reach out to myself or to Tammy, and we'll be glad to take care of any needs you have.
Awesome. Thank you, Stephen. We appreciate it.
Absolutely. Have a great day.
You too. Thanks. All right, everybody. That is our last session for today. Thank you so much to everybody who is here. Again, you can take a look at our schedule from today. We had the Gifted and Talented team. We had the Youth Service Coordinators. And then we had Stephen with Mastery Connect. All of these videos will be broken up and put on the channel. I'll be working on that tomorrow morning. So thank you so much. I hope you have a great rest of your week. And I think it's supposed to be rainy today, but enjoy the sunshine the rest of the week and have a good long weekend. See you later.